Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Let's see, there we go. Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we have the honor of speaking with Dr. Stephen Crane, a United States Marine Corps sergeant whose journey is nothing short of inspiring. His career in the Marines was marked by significant challenges and pivotal moments that shaped his path and personal growth. Dr. Crane's post-military career is a testament to resilience and versatility. He's held many roles ranging from MBA teaching assistant to project manager, organizational change consultant, paralegal, undercover investigator, financial planner, human resources expert, curriculum developer, instructor, janitor, and successful entrepreneur. His diverse experiences across various sectors have equipped him with a unique perspective and a wealth of expertise. One of the most transformative moments in Dr. Crane's life came when he confronted unprocessed trauma during his service, an experience that profoundly impacted his future after transitioning out of the military. He faced significant challenges, including homelessness. However, through faith, determination, and a relentless effort, he overcame these obstacles and built a life dedicated to service and success. Dr. Crane founded Veteran Roadmap, a 501c3 nonprofit organization providing comprehensive care and support to veterans. His work has helped over 3,500 clients build financial legacies, access hidden benefits, and maximize their VA disability ratings. Additionally, he has delivered over $3 billion in benefits to the veteran community. His core values, patience, understanding, compassion, and kindness, or PUC, reflect his deep commitment to making a positive impact. Join us today as Dr. Crane shares his journey from military to service to entrepreneurship, the challenges he overcame, and his ongoing mission to support and empower veterans. His story is one of perseverance, transformation, and unwavering dedication to helping others. So let's dive in and warmly welcome Dr. Stephen Crane, a true embodiment of what it means to be a strategic veteran, dedicating to leading. Dr. Crane, thanks for being here on a Saturday, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk to you, brother. Yeah, man. Dude, impressive resume there. I'm excited to dive into your story. So let's just get started, man. Tell us kind of where you grew up, what inspired you to join the Marine Corps, and we'll go from there, brother.
Yeah, loaded freaking question right there. So I was born in Dallas, Texas, grew up pretty much all over the country. My dad was a bricklayer. My mom did whatever she could to try to take care of myself. And she delivered pizzas during nights. Just anything, right? But she was super strong, and just being able to keep us all together and just phenomenal on that side. And my dad, I always tell people I have the utmost respect for that man, right? It's hard to have a relationship with someone when you're growing up and you never really see them, but the amount of respect that you can have towards a human being for being able to go out there 7 days a week, work 14-hour days nonstop for like 20 years, you got to give credit where credit's due. That's ridiculous to take care of their family. So I have utmost respect for him and what he's been able to do. That was my upbringing. What led me ultimately to join the Marine Corps? That's the big loaded freaking question right there. So long story short, all throughout my life, I mean, if anyone's ever seen me in person, I'm a little freaking dude, right? I'm a little tiny thing. I'm 5'4". I'm tiny, right? I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder, but wasn't for my Napoleon complex, right? It was for really how I was treated growing up. I mean, you got to think my mom was an immigrant here, and then she didn't have anything in her background. Then my dad kicked out of his house in sixth grade, and then that's his education. And he went and became a bricklayer and made something with his life. So I come from nothing when in that respect. So yes, you're mocked and ridiculed your entire life for obviously your parents. Cool. A lot of people go through that. So what makes me different? Well, I don't know what it is about me, but some people decide to take it to the next level and send death threats and bring knives and guns to school. And they would be suspended, expelled, transferred to different schools. I would be put in protective custody, everything you can imagine. It was way more than just push up against the locker, beaten around a couple times. Like, no, it was freaking legit. It was some serious bullying going on. So I always had a chip on my shoulder for that. And then on top of that, it wasn't just the students, it was the teachers as well. I was constantly mocked and ridiculed by teachers for a variety of different reasons. One of which being I I never really enjoyed school, partially because of the way I was treated at school, but I never really focused on the classroom aspect. I was always, I felt like I was in a mafia. I was always having to look over my shoulder to figure out who is plotting against me and how can I maneuver in school to literally avoid being killed. I'll never forget that in high school, I got a bunch of death threats and a text message. And it was probably about a half an hour prior to school letting out. And they were taking pictures of knives and everything. They were showing where they're posted up outside my locker and everything. I was like, yeah, I should probably say something. I probably shouldn't go about this myself. So I showed the teacher, police rush in, dogs, everything. They're escorted out. It was a legit threat. It was a legitimate problem going on. But then the teachers would chime in too, and they would, they would have me wear different things, walk up and down classes, mock me, ridicule me, all these different things. And then on top of that, the teachers would continuously tell me, "You're never going to make anything of yourself. Why are you here? You're stupid. Blah blah blah." And looking back, I'm just like, wow. Like as a teacher, you're supposed to inspire students and try to make something of them, and what they're doing to me is just continuously pushing me down. Then, so that's those are the two big ones. Then you couple in the internal aspect. So internally, and this is where it gets really freaking deep, which I'm sure, because I've talked to thousands of veterans, I'm sure this is going to resonate with someone. Early in my childhood, I was molested, right? I was molested from 5 to about 9 years old from various people, various incidents and stuff. So when you're young and you don't know anything about sexuality, you just know what feels good. So you grow up thinking, quite literally, you're gay your entire life. And you think that you're kind of bisexual, gay. You're kind of wondering what this is, and you don't know anything. You don't have a name to put to anything, right? You're just growing up, and you're just like, all right, this is me. So yes, you go to a school, people mock you and ridicule for that. They mock you and ridicule you for your family, the way that you look, everything like that. Then you got the teachers that chime in on it. Then you've got the internal struggle. It's a recipe for disaster. I ultimately hated school and resented any thought of going to college at that point. So, long story, again, kind of cut short. The recruiter came to my house and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity for you," the whole spiel. And I sat down and I said, "Okay, what do you got? Because I'm sure as hell not going to college. Well, what else is there?" And he laid it all out to me. And the recruiter, God bless his soul, I'm sure a lot of recruiters can kind of relate to this in a sense. Recruiters truly can make or break a person's future. And the recruiter, thankfully, I had a really good recruiter. The recruiter sat down and said, listen, and he pulled me aside and he said, listen, what's going on behind the scenes? You're obviously very smart. I can see your ASVAB. I can see everything. I can see your grades. You're obviously very smart. You say you hate school, but you have a 4.0 GPA. You're in the top 20 of your class. You have all these different honors. Something's not mixing up here. What's going on? And I told him, I'm like, listen, this is where I'm at. And I want to prove to myself that one, I can make something of myself. Two, that I want to confirm that I am, quote unquote, this man, right? Whatever this ideal masculine man is, I want to confirm to myself that I'm actually that. And then, most importantly, I just want to kind of prove everyone wrong and give them a big fuck you, right? So I said, I'm like, what can I do? And he said, I got the opportunity for you, the Marines. I was like, okay, cool. Is that the hardest one? And they said, yeah, for boot camp, 100%, that's the hardest. I'm like, great, let's do that. And so I signed up and then shipped off, and that pretty much was the whole story.
Relate to you in so many, we're a lot alike in so many ways with what you just said. I also, grew up with a mother who worked basically part-time, whatever she could find. My parents split when I was young, so there's, a little bit of a difference there, but my dad was also working all the time. My dad's my hero. Like, I understand it's hard to get to know somebody when they're always out of the house. My dad was always out of the house working, but growing up in Southern Indiana, I saw that and I was like, this is what hard work is. This is what fighting to take care of your children looks like, right? Even though we didn't have it the greatest, it taught me a bunch of lessons that I wouldn't realize till later in life. And I kind of gather that's what you're saying about your own dad, right? Yeah. And then you've got the bullying, and I would never try to compare my bullying experience with yours because, you we're in a different era, right? Like you had cell phones. What year did you graduate high school? Okay, so you graduated 9 years after I did, right? So, technology and, I also grew up my whole life being bullied, wearing glasses. I'm a 80s baby, so I went to school in the 90s. Kids were ruthless in the 90s. Glasses technology was not what it is today. You also didn't have, all the bullshit where people are now accessorizing their outfits with glasses, even though they don't fucking need them. That shit pisses me off more than anything because I was ridiculed as a child for having to wear glasses. But the teachers would do the same thing. People that I had looked up to, people that I thought were supposed to be leading, training, and mentoring me to go further are doing the same thing that they were doing to you. I didn't have any death threats. I wasn't receiving pictures of knives and guns and this is where we're going to meet you at. But, there was very much some stuff where it's like, meet me at this gas station after school. We're going to fight. And it's like, okay, let's do this. You know what I mean? So I relate so much to all of that. And I think a lot of what inspired me to join the Army was just wanting out of that environment. Not really kind of trying to test my manhood or anything, but just like I knew there was more to the world and I kind of won out. And the Army did that for me. And I think the Marines probably did that for you too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It provides you an out. It provides you options. It provides you confidence. It provides you just so much stuff that a typical college route just will never, and it can never give you.
I relate again with what your recruiter said, right? Like just looking at you as a human being, not as a number that they need to put in the Army. I had a recruiter. He wasn't my recruiter. He wasn't the guy that put me in, but Bradley A. Marks, if you're listening to this, he was the infantry guy in the recruiting office, and he really guided me after my recruiter had all the paperwork and whatnot. And like he ran the delayed entry program, and he really did. He kind of lifted me up and saw what was going on behind the scenes, the broken home, the fighting constantly, just like understanding that I didn't come from a great place, and really turning me on to what the Army could offer me without the whole sales pitch of being a recruiter. We always like to tell people like, yeah, I got sold hook, line, and sinker off the fast roping helicopter videos and the walking through the woods and firefights, right? Because I was an infantry dude, and that is somewhat true. That compelled me to join the Army, but really like being mentored by Sergeant Marks was great, and it really did inspire me to do well in the Army. Is that kind of how your recruiter treated you?
really, it's kind of hard because you look back and you're like, well, I knew you were doing it for a number, right? But at the same time, there is that connection that you can't deny between human and human, between man and man. There's just some sort of connection that you do develop, whether you want to or not. Of, hey, you are kind of like a father figure. You're kind of like a mentor. You're kind of like that guru that I'm looking up to, and I can see where my life is going to change if I follow you. And whatever way, right? I know you're going to probably use and abuse me a little bit, but whatever way, I know I'm going to end up a little bit better on the other side. And yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and again, like looking back, it's you were a number, but like a testament to this living proof. If you look behind me, you'll see my EIB up there. That EIB is the very same one that the day I shipped, Sergeant Marks took off of his uniform and handed to me and said, this is to guide you, right? Like this is something for you to look forward to. So when I actually earned my EIB, that's the one that I had pinned on my chest, right? Like that's the one that's in my love me wall, because that man really did inspire me. However mediocre my career was, however, whatever, all the shit I went through, and unlocking potential afterwards and understanding what it could have been, it still really had a big impact on me. So I relate to that 1,000%, man. Share some key experiences that you gained in the Marine Corps that kind of you lean on today, and that really helped you through all of kind of the bullshit of the transition hole, and not knowing what you want to do when you get out and all that stuff. Like, what did the Marine Corps give to you that you use to this day?
So much, so much. I mean, from the very get go, we always joke like the Marine Corps prepares you to be homeless. Well, shit, it does. You become very resourceful in understanding what things can be used for what, and thinking outside the box. So I mean, that's definitely the biggest one, is just being able to think bigger, especially with the Marine Corps. I mean, the Air Force, we always joke with them, right? They always get the biggest funding, the coolest gadgets and stuff. The Marine Corps is the bottom barrel. You get nothing. You get the hand-me-downs of the hand-me-downs that were already in war and that are torn up, and then you get that one.
Yeah, you guys are the bastard children of the military, right? You belong to the Navy, right? So the long-standing joke is Marine stands for my ass rides around in Navy equipment, right? And I remember I did a couple of deployments. My second deployment was with but the Marines were in charge of us, so I was with every first, second, and fifth mess. I think I can't remember anymore, but they were all running around with old equipment. Some of them still had M16s, not M4s, right? And the old, I don't know if you remember them, but we had these, like, before we got plate carriers, we had these vests that was like close over here and then you fold it over here. They were so uncomfortable and really like cumbersome.
Oh, wait a minute. There's something else besides that?
Yeah. So you did still have them, and I was floored watching these Marines run around in this stuff. So yeah, I 1,000% understand what you're talking about, because they do. It's just constant hand-me-downs. You're the bastard children.
So that, I mean, but that does teach you that you don't need the coolest equipment. You don't need the coolest, most high grade, high speed stuff. You can get by with the basic knife. You can get by with the basic car. You can get by with the basic phone. You can get by with the basics and still make something. So that was definitely a big lesson learned. Another lesson learned for sure was the people that you surround yourself with will make or break you. The prime example, when I got to the fleet and went to my first duty station, the command, good God, the command was the worst. I mean, the worst of the worst of the worst that I could have even ever thought about. It literally put me back in high school. The same abuse, the same everything. I'm like, I escaped high school. I escaped where I went and lived because I thought this was going to be something different. And now you're telling me it's the exact same? Oh, hell no. Like, I can't do this, especially if I'm going to be here for 4 years. Thankfully, stuff happened, and I was no longer with that unit, right? So I moved on to another unit, flourished, meritorious promotions, everything, awards, grant, all these different things. And so the people that you surround yourself with can make or break your career. 100%.
I love that, man, because I had kind of a similar experience, right? Like I escaped the bullying by leaving the Army. Basic training was fine, but I got to my first unit. It wasn't the command, it wasn't the leadership. It was just the simple fact that I got to my first unit somewhere between 2 weeks and a month after they came home from the invasion of Iraq. So my life as a private, you can imagine how that was. And kind of looking back on it, I felt the same way that you did. Like I felt I escaped this. Like I moved on from this to find better. Like this is going to be my life. And I signed a 6-year contract because I was the guy who's like, at the end of 6 years, I'll know whether or not this is for me or not. Like all or nothing here, right? No bonus, no nothing. Let's just go for the gold here. And I get to my first unit and all this shit's going on. And however, I do get it now, right? Like they just lived through something that we hadn't experienced, not really since Vietnam, I would say, because Desert Storm, Desert Shield was not army wide or military wide operation, right? It was very select units that went and did some stuff, not to diminish what those people did, but, fast forward to the invasion and, these guys, they're already fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just trying to prepare you. And I didn't realize that at the time. And I just wanted out. I was like, I want out. After that deployment, after I get to my deployment, right, and about 30 days in, when you're authorized to combat patch, everything changes. Everything changed. And then kind of like your story started to flourish, right? Get some awards, get promoted early. And, I relate to that so much. What was your job in the Marine Corps?
It was administration, then mailman, then legal, and then CID. And CID, I never officially made it into it, and that led to the rest of the story.
Yeah, man. So you made E5 in 4 years. Is that relatively fast in the Marine Corps?
I did it in 3 years, and yes. Depending on your MOS, I mean, what we call it, the pyramid. Some of them are super quick to climb the pyramid. Like I remember anybody in IT, you can become a staff sergeant easily 5 years, easy. And it's like, wow, that's cool. But the chances of you ever reaching gunny, give it another 10, 15 years to reach gunny because it's just so small and top heavy at the top. There's nothing you can do. So my MOS, 0111, 0121, all those different ones, my MOS, it was competitive. It was very hard, but it wasn't like the golden child. Now, I did graduate meritorious promotion, top of my class out of MOS school. I did work my ass off for that, and that's a whole freaking story in and of itself on how that happened.
Well, let's talk about it. Tell the story, man. We're here to tell your story, brother, and all of these things play into where you're at today, and I think they're important for other veterans, right? Who, I mean, Dr. Crane, you've been through a ton, man. Like from homelessness to retired in 5 years, and I think you are probably, I'm just going to say, you're the best example that we've had come on this show thus far. This is why I started this show, because when we did our little meet and greet, like when I reached out to you to ask you if you would be interested in doing this show, I was like, man, a Marine with a PhD, a doctorate. And you were like, yeah, I'm not supposed to have this, right? Like you even self-admitted, was like, I never thought this would be possible. And so having that mindset, but then accomplishing that, right? You are the best example for all these guys who are stuck in this transition hole, who feel sorry for themselves. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but I was there, man. I was 100 pounds overweight. I was sitting on the couch, fucking doom scrolling, analysis paralysis, never taking any action, and ready to put a gun in my mouth because I was miserable. You know what I mean? And so let's tell these stories and let's show people how you overcome this adversity, leaning on the resilience, the discipline, the problem solving, the adaptability that you gained from the Marine Corps.
So in MOS school, it's one of those stories where it's like, are you kidding me again? Like I just explained my childhood. Well, let's jump into MOS school. So I jump in, and my goal immediately, the first day that they all lined us up in formation, they're like, now one of you will leave as a Lance Corporal. And I was like,
that's going to be me. That's going to be me. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. And they threw in the bonus, and you get to choose your duty station. I'm like, I'm locked in.
Fucking
Let's go.
sweeten the pot. Let's go.
So I'm like, anything I can do, let's make it happen. And I hit the ground running. It was, I think it's 8 weeks, 9 weeks is the schoolhouse. And I went during the holidays, so it was a little bit longer, some days missing and whatnot. But I was there during the holidays. MOS school was interesting. It was kind of hard, especially for myself, because again, remember, I come from nothing. And I grew up in the age of computers. We never had a freaking computer at home. So I never learned how to type. I was one of those like finger digits right there, and just finding the letters and doing what I can. And one of the first tasks was you had to hit like a word per minute count. That was one of the first exams. So I busted my ass in the study lab just learning how to type. Now I'm a phenomenal typer. I mean, I'll go toe to toe with anybody. I'm a very good typer now. But at first, I had to learn, and I felt like I was in physical therapy. Like, okay, this one, this key. It felt stupid, but I did it, and I passed, and I was at the top of the class. Then it was exam after exam after exam, and I continuously scored at the top. But then this is where everything changed. So in MCT, so Marines go boot camp, MCT, MOS. MCT is Marine Combat Training, or SOI, School of Infantry. You go to MCT, and 3 of the 4 weeks that you're there, you're in the field, and you're doing nothing but field. I mean, there's no showers. You got your little baby wipes and everything. Like, it's soft.
And that's in line with every Marine's a rifleman kind of thing, right? You guys are the only branch that really harps on that. Everyone needs to know basic infantry tactics, right? That's what MCT is teaching you.
Exactly. Yep. It's your AIT that every single Marine has to go to. So we went in and we went to the field for 3 weeks, and in the field, that's when you're first really introduced to MREs as the end all be all, and that's all you eat. Well, you're welcome to the suck. And when you say the suck, you ain't a kidding, because that's where my body was introduced to, oh shit, what is this thing called constipation? And I'm not talking constipation as in like, oh, I went a week without shit. No, how about you go 45 days without shitting and then see what that does to your body? Oh, I'll tell you what it does to your body. Halfway through MOS school, you wake up one morning and you're paralyzed from the waist down. And you literally can't move your legs. You can't feel your legs. You can't move your toes. You can't do anything. You're in excruciating pain, and you just are sitting there, and you scream out for help. And the guy you're dorming with at the time, he comes over and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, what's going on? I'm like, bro, I can't feel my legs. He's like, bro, get up. We got PT. I'm like, no, I can't feel my legs. Like, go get the corpsman. So they helped me up, because like, fuck, they're not going to come in here. They're not going to believe you. So they put me on their shoulder. Like, I'm literally like dangling down the hallway. They take me outside in formation. And I'm standing there, he helped me get dressed and everything. I'm standing there, and the corpsman's like, what the hell's wrong with you? I was like, I can't feel my legs. And he's like, what the hell? He lays me back. He just takes a look, and he's like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong here. And so I went to the hospital. And in the hospital, they ran some blood work. They did everything. Came out, I was septic. I did not pass a stool for over a month. It was like 40-something days that I went without a bowel movement. And so obviously they had to take care of that. That was terrifying in and of itself. But
did you not at any point be like, I haven't shit in a fucking month? Like you didn't, like, because you're talking about, I'm a 4.0 student. I didn't really like school. Like, you're obviously like, I was not a 4.0 student, right? I did what I had to do to keep my grades up. I didn't like school, but I was also like, I think the teachers poking fun at me and really not mentoring me like they supposed to was kind of what turned me off to school. But and I used to not consider myself smart because I had too many people telling me I wasn't smart. But you're obviously a smart guy, man. And so, like, at what point are you like, bro, this is weird. I haven't shit in a month. Like, this is probably a problem.
And that's the funny thing. You would think that would be common sense. Like, I mean, shit. But when you're running at high speed, and especially when your eyes on the prize of Lance Corporal, bust my ass, and everything, you let your health deteriorate, and then one day you wake up and it catches up with you, and you're like, what the fuck? What happened? And that's exactly what happened to me. So it literally never even passed my mind until the doctor asked. The doctor asked, when's the last time you had a bowel movement? I was like,
I don't even know.
bro, I don't know. That's a good question. I was like, shit, I don't know. So when he asked that, I was like, oh my God. And he's like, really think back to when it was. I was like, oh no, before MCT? And they're like, oh my God. So they did ultrasounds and everything. Yeah, it was bad. But long story on that, that led to me being septic, that led to me being paralyzed, and that led to the doctors, because I also had like a flu and stuff. I mean, my body was shutting down. They didn't know at the time what it was. They just thought, oh shit, this is something contagious. This is something weird. We got to isolate them. Here's the part that gets even freaking weirder. They isolate me. They send me to a different room, a different dorm entirely. But if anyone's been on Camp Johnson, and if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. There's a boys' dorm and a girls' dorm. And in the girls' dorm, obviously there's way less girls, so they have the first 2 floors. The male dorms, it's like five floors high. Well, the females have 2 floors. What are the other 3 floors doing? Nothing. So they isolated me to the top of the 5th floor on the girls' side, and they isolated me. They said, "Do not leave your dorm room. Do not do anything. You know, if you need something, here's a cell phone. Best of luck." I was like, "Okay." So, like, you gonna deliver chow? Like, what's gonna happen? How long am I here? They're like, "Oh, we'll check up on you. Don't worry." I was like, "Okay." They fucking left me.
Yeah, yeah, I knew that was coming.
When I say they left me, I was there, and you can ask anybody. I was texting everybody, and was like, "Yo, I'm still here. Like, are you guys coming?" And this was probably day 2 or 3, and I'm like, no one's checked up on me. They gave me some water, and that's it. Like, I haven't
They just
had food in
locked
2
you
or
on
3
the
days.
5th floor with just some water. Said, we'll check on you. And 3 days later, nobody has checked on you. Why does that sound pretty much like something the military would do?
You think to other people, you would think like, hey, you haven't seen your battle buddy in a while. Why don't you say something? So I finally was able to get a hold of him. He's like, oh shit, like no one checked on you? So they came up and checked, and they said, what do you need? And obviously the door was sealed shut, so they were talking, between the doors. I was like, I don't know, I need toilet paper, I need water, I need food, I need anything. And so
I
they
would like
went.
some food. That would be great.
They grabbed some chow. They brought it back. So probably about day 3 or 4, I got some chow, and I got some stuff. But then that's when they alerted the teacher, one of the instructors, and the instructor came over, and he's like, "Hey, you doing good?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Hey, when you come back to class? Because you're going to fall behind, and we're going to have to push you to the next cycle." And I was like, "Well, I know this sounds dumb, but is there a way I can take the test in here, because the doctor hasn't said anything?" And they said, well, let me check with the schoolhouse, teacher or whatever. So they checked, and they said, yeah, you can do like a Scantron. And so
they just slid the Scantron under the
They gave
door?
me a written test and a Scantron, slipped under the table, and was like, oh, shit, I'm really going to have to. I mean, I've got nothing better to do. I might as well just study.
Here we go. Yeah, let's do this.
I'm studying, I'm taking the Scantrons and everything, and then I pop it back under, and then they would grade it, and then they come back. I didn't know it until the very last day, because it wasn't until the very last week that I was let out of that room, and I was cleared, and I was healthy and everything.
So how many weeks were you in the room?
2-3 weeks.
By yourself. Don't leave.
Yeah.
Oh,
bro,
man.
Solitary confinement. Never left. It actually taught me something about myself. If I ever go to prison, put me in the hole. I'll survive. I'm good.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, after being introduced to plant medicine, one of the things I do want to go do is lock myself in a dark room for 7 days. And I've heard that the things that you can learn about yourself when you isolate like that, particularly voluntarily, right? Yours wasn't voluntary, but we as humans are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for, right? And I think that's probably what you're alluding to, that you learned in that room for 3 weeks by yourself. Because, for those who are listening who don't understand, particularly in the Marine Corps, if they say you're staying in this room and you're not leaving, you're not fucking leaving, like, ever.
You're scared to death to open the door because you don't know what's waiting on the other side. You could have an armed guard there and be like, shoot to kill unopened. You have no idea. So yeah, I literally stayed in that room for 2-3 weeks, and then I was let out. I was cleared by medical and everything like that. Went back to the platoon, and then we had like our not graduation ceremony, but we had kind of like a platoon meeting where they announced the number one person. And then I knew it was semi close because the instructor would tell me, be like, "You're actually in the running." They didn't tell me how close it was. It was me and this other girl, and it was kind of neck and neck the whole time. The rest of the platoon didn't really count, but me and this girl went neck to neck, and it came down to the final exam, which I took in the dorm, and it came down to that, and I beat it. And so when they announced it, everyone was like, first off, who the hell is he? He hasn't been in class, and then he's coming out and he's meritorious. I'm confused. And then they actually gave an explanation of what happened to me in front of the platoon. And they were like, bro. So I got some street cred for that. That's pretty cool. But that's that meritorious promotion then led to a lot of the hazing, a lot of the stuff that happened, because you're walking in and you're supposed to be a private or a PFC. You're supposed to be an E1, E2. I'm walking in there E3. I'm the same rank as everyone else that's been in the fleet. And so they're looking at me and they're like, well, you're not below us, but you're not one of us. And so we need to make sure we teach you that. And we also need to re-emphasize the fact that we're better. So it was even more hazing. So anyone listening out there, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for meritorious promotion because it's going to put a target on your back. I didn't realize that. I thought, this would actually secure me. This would make me safe because I'm not going to be the bottom barrel. There's going to be people below me. I was wrong.
Did you ever find that the hazing was different than the bullying, and that you kind of came around to understanding what the hazing was about? Or did it always kind of bother you and you never made any peace with it? Because I know for me, like I did finally understand it. And I don't know, particularly just from my experience in the infantry, in the Army, it's really a rite of passage. It's a test, man, to find out who you are and what you're made of. And I guess having almost 5 years of combat time, I understand it now, because I want to know what you're made of, because when shit hits the fan over there, my first squad leader is a prime example of this. I don't know how he ever made E6 in the Army, but the first firefight I ever got in, that motherfucker ran right back into the backseat of the fucking Humvee and hid. You know what I'm saying? So like I understand the hazing, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is the way that it is. And I think it is the way that it is for a reason. And I don't think that it should ever change, regardless of what the political atmosphere is or how we change as a society. I think very much some of the rituals and the things that go on in the military are absolutely necessary to build the best fighting force on the planet. So did you ever come to terms with the hazing?
I did. And I think there is a difference, at least in my mind. I think there is a big difference between constantly fucking with someone just for the sake of it and pushing them too far for absolutely no reason. And then there's a fine line between that and actual, like hazing, where it's kind of more military instruction, if you will. Like, yes, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, but I'm doing that out of love because I really want you to realize what the Taliban is going to do to you. Like, I want you to understand what these people are out to do to you, and I want you to feel it. And I'm going to do it in a semi-controlled manner.
Yeah, semi-controlled is the key word there.
You may break a rib, but we're going to take you to medical afterwards, right? We're not going to just let you die, but we're going to bring you on the brink of it.
And not only that, but we're going to go drink with you afterwards too. We're going to fuck you up. And then we're going to fuck you up even more, right? Like, we're going to, but in a camaraderie, like, you're part of this brotherhood way. Like, so pay your dues with the hazing, get your ass beat a little bit, and now we're going to go get you fucking hammered and show you what life is really like.
That's the part that is so hard for me to reconcile with that last piece. I can understand and I can appreciate the bullying and the fucking and whatever. That's culture. Cool. I can appreciate the fact that they love you so much in the weirdest freaking way that they want to beat the shit out of you to help you. But the weird part is I can't reconcile that last piece. Like then you're gonna be buddy buddy with me at the ball or whatever, and knowing damn well, like just the other day, you were literally telling me I'm the worthless piece of shit, like everything, and you meant it. But then you can flip the switch, grab your dress blues, grab a beer, and now we are literally friends. That part for me was weird. It brought back like emotional manipulation from like an abusive relationship, because it's like I'm gonna beat you because you're my wife. I'm gonna beat you in a submission, and I mean it. But then for dinner, where do you want to go to eat, honey? And then like you mean it. That to me, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, we're all wired differently, right? But I feel like the wiring in military to be able to do that and to snap in and out like that, that is something, I don't know, that's something psychology needs to study a little bit more on how people can make that switch like that.
Well, I definitely understand what you're saying there, because as a leader, as I grew up, I always tried to make sure I knew where the line was, right? Like firm, but also like fair. And like, I'm going to teach you some lessons, but I really am going to be your buddy. I'm not going to ever make you feel like, I'm not your buddy, but I am gonna beat some discipline into you. I am gonna show you a little bit of what this is about for good reason, right? You pick up on those things. At least you should, as a good leader.
I think that's the key, though. Is the key is you should as a good leader.
Yeah, should, right. Um, so let's talk about the unprocessed trauma. I assume that's you coming to terms with being molested as a child. You worked through that while you were in the Corps. Did you work through that while you were locked in that room? Did you work through that after the Corps? When did that actually come about?
That's the crazy part. I never once talked about it. I never once said anything. It wasn't even until my book published last September that I mentioned anything. My family, my wife, no one ever knew anything. And it was through the book because I had so many veterans reach out because they knew bits and parts of my story. And I had so many people in academia and so many people across just life reach out to me and say, you need to write a book. And I was like, shut up. Like, again, my story is not special. No, shut up. You need to write the book. Just write the book. I guarantee you it will impact someone. And I said, all right, fine. I'll buckle down and write the book. And I got some help with it because I was wondering, should I put it all out there? And if I do, what are the repercussions? I know it's going to destroy my family. I know it's going to destroy my wife. I know it's going to destroy a lot of people that truly love me and care about me. But is it going to help someone? And that was the number one thing I asked the editor. Is this going to help someone if I just lay it all out there? And they said yes.
I think the biggest person it was going to help was you.
We'll get to that. Yep, that was part of the process. So all I wanted to do truly was just help someone else because we're wired to serve, and I just wanted to help someone else. Maybe it would resonate with them. Maybe it would touch them or something. And I wrote it. I published it. The feedback that I got on the book was, I mean, more than anything I could have ever asked for. One of the feedback, one testimony that I got from an elderly woman, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, because of your book and because of the story that you shared, it broke my heart, but two, I wanted to reach out to you and let you know that I shared this book with my son, and we've been no contact for like 10 years." And I just really wanted him to read it. Because he read the book and because it resonated with him, we now have an amazing relationship. I was like, done. That success. Cool. That was my only metric of success. Will it impact someone's life? And as soon as it did, that's where I got the reconciliation for myself of hurt people, save people. hurt people always hurt people, but hurt people can save people. And that kind of rewiring changed instantly for me. And from there, it was like, okay, how can I process this and make this into not, what would you call it, like feeling sorry for me, and all that, but how can I make this a true victor story and complete that hero's journey on this cycle? And that way I can close the book on it, pop it in there, and always grab it and say, like, hey, this is my book, this is my story, fuck yeah, and kind of own it in a powerful way, but never dwell on it, and just say, hey, this was my chapter of life, this was my first 30 years, happy, boom, and then the next 30 years start. So yeah, through that journey of writing the book, it was hard, because obviously you have to kind of reprocess it and write everything out and all that good stuff, but it was meaningful.
It's cathartic, right? It's cathartic,
it gave me purpose.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome. I, having started this podcast and only having at the time of this recording released 5 episodes, I'm getting people telling me you need to publish a book. You need to, and I'm a lot like you, man. I just wanted this to help one veteran. If it saves one veteran's life, before I even released it, it did save a veteran's life, because this kid I mentored, saw my profile on LinkedIn. He had just gotten out of the VA inpatient treatment for trying to kill himself. And he's cruising LinkedIn because he got this equity offer in a company. And he's like, I need mentorship. I need to learn what I'm doing. And he sees my stuff pop up, and he immediately calls me. And it's like, dude, I haven't even released anything yet, and I'm already accomplishing what I've set out to accomplish. And there's no greater feeling than that. So when you were talking about that, hurt people, but if you can rewire that, hurt people are the best people to help people. And dude, that gave me chills, man. I still get chills repeating what you just said. So thank you for saying that and sharing that with us. Let's talk about when you got out of the Marine Corps. What led to your decision to get out? And let's start talking about the whole main point of this show, the transition, and how dark that can get.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, let's rewind to re-enlistment time ish, right? So around re-enlistment time, probably a year out, you start making decisions about your career. So I go visit the career planner. I'm like, listen, my whole life's purpose, I always like putting puzzles together, and I always like helping people. I'm thinking, based on me getting my bachelor's, right? At that time, I just completed in 2016 my bachelor's.
So you were doing college while you were in the Marine Corps?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So you actually, how much college did you do while you were in the Corps? Just the bachelor's? You can't remember.
I think I
you got so much damn school.
I think I did two like certificates as well, but the bachelor's was the main one. Yeah. But I got my bachelor's in criminal justice, and that was one of the prerequisites, as I remember, for going into CID. You needed a bachelor's degree in criminal justice psychology or something like that. You needed a couple approvals from like FBI, Secret Service, and stuff like that. You need a letter of recommendation. You need to retake your ASVAB and get this super high score. You needed to do all these different things. And so I asked the career plan, I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you help me just build the roadmap, and I'll go knock it out? And he's like, Steven, you ain't going to knock it out. I was like, motherfucker, don't you know, like me by now? Like, I will knock this out. And so he gave me the list. He's like, hey, best of luck. A couple weeks later, knocked everything out. Retook the ASVAB, everything. Boom. I came back and said, here's my package. And he's like, son of a bitch. Like, is there anything you can't do? I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to go into CID. I want to be able to help people. I've worked on the legal side. Last year, I love that, and I love being able to help people on that end. So this is what I want to do. So he submits the package. He sends it over to CID. They interview me, all that good stuff. They're like, yeah, cool, sounds good. You need to do a physical evaluation and a mental evaluation. I said, oh, okay, cool, no problem. Let me go over to BAS. Let me take care of that. So I go over. They look at me and everything, and then they say, great, this is part one. It's like,
You're
what do you
like,
mean part
excuse
one?
me? Yeah.
It was like, so it's not, are you wearing condoms? Are you drinking water? Are you wearing your seatbelt? It's no, we need to take blood work, CTs, MRI. We need to like do a full workup on you. Oh, and then by the way, we need to go through a psychologist that actually is going to sit down with you and ask you some deep questions. I said, okay. So I went off and I started doing that. And that's where kind of everything takes a tailspin. Because remember, the last couple of years have been high speed, focusing on education, focusing on promotions, awards, volunteering, got my move some everything, right? I did everything you're supposed to be a good Marine. I was not focused on my health. Because whenever I focused on my health, I just looked around and I'm like, well, they're broken. They're broken. They're not complaining. They're not at medical. So I guess I'm good. Let's charge forward. Well, it catches up to you, and that's what happened. So when I went to the psychological evaluation, diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a TBI. And the TBI actually came from one of the events previously from a massive hazing accident that occurred. Beaten, bloody, woke up unconscious, wander in the woods. PMO had to come grab me. It was bad.
Fuck, man. I never had it that bad. So, Jesus Christ, dude.
That's what led to my TBI. I wasn't blown up overseas or anything. I was just beaten, literally unconscious. So that all popped, and they're like, yeah, that's a problem. Then I went over to medical, and then they did a whole bunch of stuff. So I had degenerative disc disease in my neck and in my back, bulging disc, herniated disc, all that good stuff. Had a broken foot, had a torn patella, what else? Hyperextended arm, a couple different things.
Bro,
Right?
what the hell is a pack clerk doing with all these damn bodily injuries sitting in an office? You sound like an infantry dude after 4 deployments, because I've got all of those things that you just mentioned, minus the patella. I got lucky and it missed my knees, but it fucked my shoulders, my ankles, my feet, my back, all the above.
That's the number one thing that people always say. They're like, how the fuck is an S1 pack clerk, walking out looking like this?
I'm not trying to diminish your experience, but it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're pushing papers. You're not pushing fucking 80-pound rucks and fucking humping a damn machine gun. You know what I mean?
Right? But all the training exercises, as they call it, right? All the training exercises, that will fuck you up, especially if you're the one really targeted. That will destroy you, and that's exactly what happened to me. So all these things were wrong. They denied my paperwork. They said, yeah, you're too jacked up. We can't approve this. You're not clear for FLETC. You got to go. So packaged everything up, went back to the career planner and said, all right, what are my options? Because apparently I might have to wait on this, I guess, and maybe get treated, maybe fix myself or something. And the career planner said, that ship has sailed. Like, you put your eggs in that basket, re-enlistment's gone. Like, really nothing that we can do. I was like, so you're basically telling me that I'm medically unfit for duty? He said, yeah, I mean, quite essentially, that's what the package says. I said, okay, cool. So I want a medical retirement. That's what I rate. If I'm medically unqualified to serve, that's a medical retirement. And they said, bastard. Bastard. This guy knows the laws. This guy knows the UCMJ.
Because you just worked with the law, right? Like for the entire last year. See, that's a unique position I think that you're in, because it's a similar story, man. When I had torn my shoulder, my labrum, like shredded it. The surgeon, he gave me the pictures because he was pretty proud that like my shoulder was the worst one he ever worked on. And, he told me it was a 50-50 shot after the first surgery, whether or not I'd stay on active duty or not. Like, it was just kind of one of those things. So I spent like a year in a sling and like rehabbing and all of that, and only to get cleared and like a month later re-tear it, have to go to another surgery. And he's like, you're done, dude. You're done. And I didn't have the legal background, so I had to fight for 100% and 30 Army side to get the retirement and all of that, go through the appeal process. I was just lucky and got a really good lawyer who was like, they can't do this to you because the exact same surgery you said and the exact same words on my whatever, I forget what it's called, the med board paperwork, were in the reg, and they tried to give me a lesser percentage, but it was worded literally verbatim. And I was just like, yeah, I was lucky, but I have buddies that weren't lucky, because you do this to help veterans now. So yeah, it's awesome that you were uniquely in that position so you could take care of yourself.
100% on that. So I went over to a flight surgeon, had him sign off on the paperwork. He's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Boom, you're clear. Take it back, submit it. Boom. Now I get an extension for 6 months. Well, technically it was an extension for 6 months, but realistically it only extended my active service time by 3 months. Okay, cool. So anyone that's on a med board knows that it's 2 6-month stints. First 6 months you live at medical. Next 6 months you transition out of the Marine Corps. You get your benefits, your retirement, all that good stuff. Well, I started it. I did the first 6 months. So that was March to September. Yeah, March to September. I started the 6 months and I lived at medical. I would literally go in from 8 a.m. to about 3 p.m. And then would go into the office from 3 to 6, 3 to 9, 3, whatever, however much paperwork's left. And then I would file that stuff and be done. So I would live at medical. I would do my appointments. I'd try to get better, as they try to say, right? They're trying to rebuild you for the civilian world. And it was tough. But I will say this. The one thing that was beneficial, physical therapy, no. Chiropractor, no. All the stuff that they did, no. All the injections, everything like that, no. The biggest thing that saved my life, and I say saved my life because hindsight, I didn't know I was going to be homeless. I didn't know anything was going to happen. But the biggest thing that saved my life, and I credit her in my book, and I credit her anywhere I go, Dr. Barrett. That woman saved my life. I didn't even know it at the time. I mean, yeah, I was very depressed. I was very suicidal because you work your whole life. You go into the Marine Corps. You think you're going to have a career. You think you're going to go into criminal investigations. You're going to utilize your bachelor's degree. You're going to go do something with purpose, not sit around and file freaking paperwork all day. You want to go do something that's meaningful. And I finally got a chance to do that. And then they ripped it out from underneath me because I had medical problems. So this woman, this psychologist, sat down with me probably twice a week, once a week, two times a week, let's say, for 6 months. It was probably about 4 or 5 months in total. She sat down with me, and these lessons, these therapy sessions, again, hindsight, were not therapy sessions. They were coaching sessions. And the coaching that she was doing, again, everything I learned later on in life, the way that she was treating me was what I needed at the time. I didn't need therapy. I didn't need to reconcile my traumas in childhood or even the hazing and everything that I went through in the Marine Corps. I needed to figure out, where am I going to go with my life now that my life's been ripped out from underneath of me? And she did that for a good 4 or 5 months. And by the end of it, after everything that we went through, the number one takeaway was never put your sense of value or your sense of worth into something that's perishable. And I said, whoa. Like, again, at the time, I knew it was kind of profound, but I never recognized, oh my God, what that actually meant. And it was towards the end that once I kind of got better and, I was there in the head, she was basically giving me examples like, how many people are constantly saying, like, the reason that I'm living is for my wife or for my kids or for this. What if they divorce you? What if your kid gets run over in a car? What if your kid dies of cancer? So what, you're going to off yourself? I was like, wow, because she knew how to talk to me. And that's how I like to be talked to. Like, don't
Don't
Sugarcoat
sugarcoat
it.
anything. Don't beat around the bush. Be as direct as, this is. I'm so glad that you're saying this because I'm going through a psychedelic integration and addiction recovery coaching course right now that I paid a lot of money for as my way of giving back to Heroic Hearts. My goal is to become a psychedelic integration coach to help other veterans have the same experience with ayahuasca that I had, and this is a requirement for Heroic Hearts, but very much. A lot of what I talk about in that course and why I want to work with veterans is because I understand how to talk to them. Just like what you're saying, I I didn't need someone to coddle me. I needed someone to call me on my bullshit, point it out very directly, and make me fucking deal with it.
Yep. And that's exactly what she did. And anybody that isn't wired like this, they're like, "Oh my god, that is so gruesome. That's brutal. How could she ever?" I'm like, "No, that's exactly what I needed because she shoved it in my face and made me realize I put my worth, my entire life into my work. And when my work was no longer there, what was I? As an early kid, like really early, like kindergarten, first, second, third grade, right? My value was school. I loved school. I loved reading. I loved it. But then once I hit probably fourth, fifth grade, that's when the extreme bullying and hazing started. And then I began to hate school. And because I hated school, I hated myself. And because I hated myself, I hated others. Because I hated others, I now have no purpose to live. And so growing up, I was super depressed and suicidal. I didn't even really recognize it, but I definitely was.
Brother, what you just broke down there is probably the most, I don't know, compelling breakdown of why we end up in the places that we end up as we transition out of the army, because you recognize that your core values and beliefs were learning. You were drawn to it, you enjoyed it. And because all of this stuff started in fourth grade, you started to hate yourself because I assume a lot of the bullying was coming from being a smart kid, right? And that's fucking, first of all, that's just as bad as people doing what they did to me and telling me that I was a fucking dumbass. I had no intelligence. I was never going to make anything of myself, right? You're just getting it from the opposite end because you're a gifted learner and shit just sticks and you're a 4.0 student. I actually saw that growing up as well. The smarter kids would get bullied too. And it's like, what are we supposed to fucking do here? Like, I don't like school because I'm just not the person that wants to sit here for 8 hours a day and have somebody preach at me, right? But if you put me in a class where I'm working with my hands, I loved like biology, advanced biology in high school when you're dissecting the cat. Like, bro, I excelled at shit like that. Playing with microscopes, like let me like see stuff and touch stuff and right, like that's how I learn. But preaching at me for English class or because I don't understand math because you're a shitty teacher and you give the smart kids all the opportunity to ask questions because my questions are dumb because I just don't understand this, right? Like that's out of this fucking world, bro. Why do we treat people like that?
I feel like that's a whole nother podcast in of itself.
We need to do that one, dude, because everything that we're talking about right here is like why I started this show, because I feel like every single one of us, whether we realize it or not, at some point we've lived through some version of this fucking story, and these are the stories that are going to save veterans' lives. You're not unique in the shit that you've been through. We've all been through something fucking awful, right? I think that's the type of people that the military preys on for good reason, right? Because you're malleable, they can mold you into what they want, and generally they know that you're not going to fucking care because you don't know, right? And so, yeah, let's have these conversations. This is a whole reason we're doing this, man, because pointing this shit out is going to shorten the amount of time that people have to spend. And I'm calling it the transition hole because it's really what it is. It's this deep, dark hole that is really hard to get out of. And I want to shorten the length of time people have to spend in that, you know?
That's why I attribute me being here today really to what she taught me without even like lecturing at me, what she just kind of illuminated in my mind, which is coaching. So what she was doing everything that I needed at that moment, and realizing that yes, my learning, my ability to learn, that was a God-given gift. Cool. And it was ruined at the 4th grade. And then your ability to, what was I saying? From the military, the job, your ability to adapt and to kind of overcome that and to figure out, well, learning is no longer what I'm passionate about because I'm not good at it, right? Now I need to find a job, and I'm really good at my job. I got meritoriously promoted out of MLF school because I was naturally gifted and smart, but it was because of that hard work that I put into it and being the best at my job. I got all these awards and everything because I busted my ass in the military. I never hung out with friends. I never went out and partied. I never did anything like that because I was at a freaking cat shelter on Saturdays and Sundays. When everyone else was out getting drunk and drinking, I was volunteering for a soccer club. I was volunteering at the shelter. I was doing everything I could so I could get my military outstanding volunteer service medal. I was doing everything I was supposed to because I was putting all my value into how good of a worker I was. And then when that got taken away, now I'm no longer a learner. Now I'm no longer a worker. Now I'm just literally a piece of shit.
You got nothing. Yeah.
And so
Nothing,
when all of your world revolves around something and it's stripped away because nothing in life is permanent, including relationships. So if you have a kid, again, God forbid something happens, are you going to give up? I don't know. I can't speak for you. Or if you have your wife or you have a husband and that is your sole purpose for living, if something happens to them or if they leave, then what? Well, apparently you have nothing to live for, so why are you here? That slap in the face reality that she gave me made me recognize that the only thing that's quote unquote permanent is me, and specifically me and my mind. And if I focus on that and that alone, I will never fail because it's me. It's permanent. It's not going anywhere. And the value that I derive from is me. Like that in and of itself is the value. Nothing can stop me. That was the pinnacle moment of all the coaching, all the therapy, everything up to that moment in my life. It all came to that one specific moment when she slapped me in the face with that. And from that moment forward, I never placed any value into work, any value into education, any value into relationships or anything like that. It was all
Material
about
things, anything, right? It was
nothing.
all the value was within, right? Like just for yourself, your mind, your soul, right? Your spirituality, all of that. Like I think that's amazing, man, because having done this show, recorded several episodes, talked to people about their transition, it's always the same story. Nobody has really had what you had with that psychologist, that doctor, right? And why do you think people like us really resonate with that direct approach, with them really just essentially what it is they're stopping you from running away from all of that shit, from hiding from it, because it's what we do, right? I don't know, for me, the Army was really good at teaching me how to compartmentalize everything, like turn off the emotional switch and just forget about it, right? Put it away, not let it bother you. And what they're not good at is teaching you how to deal with it when inevitably the circuit breaker flips and that switch gets turned on and you're now having to deal with all this shit you've compartmentalized your whole life. Particularly, like, I was 17 when I joined, you know what I mean? And I'm getting out at 30 years old. My whole adult life, all I know is compartmentalization, not dealing with emotions, really not knowing how to be a well-rounded adult man. So why do you think we resonate with the direct approach?
It goes into the brainwashing that we're all subjected to. I mean, the military is a cult. You can look at the similarities. It's a cult. That's what it is. They're meant to strip you of any identity, any purpose, anything, and then they give you that purpose.
And they tell you that. They told us that at basic training. Our job for this first, because it's red phase at basic training, and I don't remember how long it is. I want to say it's the first month. They call it total control. And from day one, they tell you our mission for the next month in Total Control is we're going to tell you when to do everything. We are going to break you the fuck down and build you back up the way that we want you to be. It is not a secret. They are very open with it, and they remind you that entire month.
Marine Corps does it a little bit less, I guess you could say. They just say you are scum and you are worth nothing, but the Marine Corps will give you something of value, and so just submit to the Marine Corps. Kneel, that's pretty much what it is. But I think that really is the beginning of it. Is they strip you of everything, kind of good, kind of bad, but it has a purpose. I get it. But they strip you of everything and then they give you your mission. And that mission becomes your life's work. And you always hear number one priority, right?
Mission first.
Even above people, it's always mission first. It's always mission first, people always. BS. It's always mission first.
It's always mission first. My whole career was that way. Yeah, absolutely, man.
And so when you are constantly driven by mission, you're always looking forward because you don't have time to look in the past. And even at the end of the mission, what do? You count your beans, bullets, Band-Aids, right? You do that, and then you move on to the next mission. You do a sit rep, and you move on. It's never, right, let's have a kumbaya, let's set up a little fire, and let's reminisce about what just happened the last day over in Fallujah. Let's just talk about it. Hey, when you barged in the door, how'd you feel? Was it scary? Yeah, okay. Right? No one does that. You bring that up and they'll be like, that's stupid. I'm out.
Shut the fuck up. I'm leaving. We're not doing this. Yeah, no.
Where's the next mission?
Yeah.
That's the problem. And I say problem kind of loosely because it has a purpose. And we're the best warfighters in the world. Great. It has a purpose and we're successful in that. But you can't deny the fact that that is one of the key reasons why we get so fixated on just moving forward and focusing on being direct and moving ahead. And therapy, it's all about the past. It's all about your feelings. It's all about reconciling things. Whereas coaching, which is what this psychologist was doing for me, what coaching is all about is figuring out your next pinpoint, your next mission. It's always future looking. And that is what I would say the vast majority of people need, especially in that moment, is what's my next mission? What's my next purpose? Just tell it to me and I'll go attack it. Versus therapy, which is, well, let's talk about your service and let's talk about those feelings that you've never talked about. That's not serving a purpose in my life. Yes, you need to do that, but right now, I don't know about that. Right now, I need to focus, where do I go next? And then we can revisit that.
And I think I agree with what you're saying. Therapy is all those things, but even more coaching, what I'm learning through the course I'm going through is really about empowering the client to really identify the things and then reframe those things or whatever it is that they need to do to make their peace with those things. And all you're really doing is giving them the tools that you've been taught, or, I know we're not supposed to, according to Being True to You, but I find when I talk to veterans, they want to know how I did it, right? So I use myself as an example. And I think it's kind of weird that they teach that you're not supposed to do that, but I think they don't understand veterans as much as we do, right? Because every veteran I've talked to, I just went last night over to Orlando and met with a kid I grew up with. He went to the Air Force a year after. He was a year behind me. We did everything together. I haven't seen him in 21 years. And we talked the same way we did, before we left, and like talked about these same things and how we all need these things. And he's constantly asking me, bro, how did you lose 100 pounds over the last 11 months? Right. How did you change your mindset? And like, what steps did you go through? I want to know what you did because you're an example. And I think that's really what coaching is, right? Like empowering people to be able to dig deep within inside themselves, find out what their core values and beliefs are, and then work through all the shit that's holding them back from living a life in tune with those core beliefs and values. Do you agree with that?
100%, because again, the only thing that's permanent is you. And the funny part about the whole experience was, like I said, hindsight, going back, coaching was the best therapy for me, because coaching also teaches you, and in the book Flush of BS, that's what I teach as well. Coaching is just all about life, as stupid as it sounds, is what you make it. And from that, that's a, again, very profound thing, but in and of itself is very, very, very transformational. Because I was then able to look back at the molestation and early in my life, and I was able to transform that into what's permanent, me. How did I view that, and what am I going to do because of it? It wasn't, let's revisit that, let's process the emotions, and then find out coping skills to make it, less traumatizing for the future. I don't need that. I need to empower myself to go back inwardly, do the deep work, and figure out, why did this happen to me? And if I tell myself it happened to me because I was a little boy and I was a prey and these were predators, that's true. And if I tell myself that I was molested because I wanted it to happen, that's true. And if I tell myself that it happened because there's evil in the world and I just happen to be one of the unlucky ones, that's true. And I can go infinitely on that scale. But no matter what, it's true. And I can find so much evidence to support every one of those claims. Because at the end of the day, they're all true. And I think a lot of times people look at it as binary. It's either this or it's this. And it's not true. There's infinite amounts of possibilities. And for you to try to sit there and to pinpoint exactly what happened and why it happened and what you're going to do from it, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because you get to choose on that scale which one you're going to choose. And if you want to be the victim, you absolutely can be the victim, and you will have millions of people sympathize for you and throw you money and resources and everything. But you can also be the victor. And if you're the victor, you will also have people like yourself reach out to you and say, holy shit, your story's amazing, and the way that you've overcome it, I want to have you on the podcast. And people will flock to this and they'll resonate with it. Both are true, but it's up to you to decide which one you want. That's why coaching, in my opinion, and why I ultimately chose to do a PhD in coaching and go into the mission and beliefs and the purpose of coaching. That's why I chose it, because looking back, that was the greatest therapy that I could have ever received, was taking the power from myself and being able to choose how I want to write my story, essentially.
Dude, it makes me so happy to hear I've got a PhD in coaching, agreeing with my philosophy on coaching. That's pretty humbling feeling, man. That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. So let's move further into your transition. Did the homelessness come pretty early on in the transition? Can you just walk us through your transition? What was it like when you got out of the Marine Corps all the way? Let's just take us to the homelessness.
So when I was at the end of that 6 months of living at medical, working, and all that good stuff, I was supposed to start my next 6 months. So September, October, November, December, January, February. I was supposed to get out in February. That was supposed to happen. What actually turned out to happen was I get a call from a GS-14 in Quantico saying, hey, you don't know how to explain this, Sergeant Crane, but you're getting out in 3 days. I said, what? What do you mean? And they're like, yeah, we're denying your extension, and we're just going to go ahead and process you out. Don't worry, it's honorable and everything. Just best of luck. I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, go to your command, get your checkout sheet, start checking out. You got 3 days, and then you'll get your 214, and best of luck. You immediately go into panic mode. all logic goes out the window at that point, because you got to remember 6 months prior, all my life and dreams were ripped out from underneath me. I'm trying to process what's next with the end goal of February in mind, with me getting benefits, with me getting severed, all these different things. And now you're telling me, psych, you're not getting anything. You're just getting an honorable discharge. Best of luck. That sends you into a tailspin unlike anything else, where you immediately grab your checkout sheet, you check out the entire base in a day. The next day, you take your SIF gear. I mean, you just go nuts. And then you immediately start applying for jobs, and you try to pick up anything you can, because you know, oh my God, that means I'm no longer going to get a paycheck, and that means I'm going to get evicted. And that means that a lot of these things are no longer going to be in my life. So you don't think about your TAPS program. You don't think about anything that's happened in the past, and you sure as hell don't think about, well, what's going to happen to my belongings. You're only thinking about, how can I pay a bill? That's the only thing that's on your mind. How can I take care of my family and pay a bill, and how can I make sure that food's on the table tonight, knowing that I don't have any money in my account? So I go out and try to find something. 3 days later, all that good stuff. So it was probably sometime in September. I forget exactly, but it was sometime in September. We had to move out. We couldn't pay rent. We couldn't do anything. Again.
So is it, you're not by yourself? Are you married at this point?
Oh yeah, I've been married the entire time. Got married at 18.
So it's you and your wife. It's not just you. So you have the added pressure of, man, that's damn. I don't know what to say to that, man. That's
where you go into your tailspin.
Yeah. Well, and I can relate, because I went through the med board process. However, I knew I was going to get something on the back end, but it very much happened for me that way. They lost the med board paperwork, the orders, actually somewhere in digital land between where they cut the orders and the Peblo that's supposed to issue my orders when they come through. And so for like 9 months, it's just like, I don't know when I'm getting out. My orders finally come through when they find out they're lost in digital land. And like I had 4 days to clear Fort Lewis, Washington. And I'm thinking, like, I'm going to get my orders. Dude, so much. I ended up having to sell my last 30 days of leave. I still lost like over 45 days of leave. Didn't get any terminal leave. You know what I mean? Because they just jacked everything up. In fact, it was so bad that when I checked out, I had to come back 2 days later to get my DD-214. They didn't even have it ready. And then I'm like, what? So I know how this goes, right? Like, this isn't your story. However unique your story is, there are definitely parts of this story that are not unique to you. They are very unique to anyone who is in the military. So I get it.
So I lost it. So we move out of the apartment again, because when you're in that moment, you're thinking, how can I protect? You're not thinking about your legal rights. You're not thinking about, well, technically I can squat here, and then the eviction process is 90 days and all this. Like, you're not thinking this. You're just thinking, I need to do what's best to protect what I've already got.
Well, I think you're thinking like a logical adult, right? Like, I'm not going to have any money. I have to pay money to live here. Because I'm a decent human being and I don't own this, I can't stay here. You know what I mean? Like, you really aren't thinking about that. Even if you know the law, you can get away with it. That's also going to eat at you, right? Because you are a decent human deep down inside. And I think the vast majority of us are anyway. I know there are people that are not decent humans that would 1,000% not know the law and still take advantage of it, right? Like, they're just going to do that. But that's adding to what's already the chaos going on in the back of your head, right? Like, you're just thinking like, fuck, my whole world just imploded completely.
Yeah. So I go out and I grab anything I can to make some bucks, to do something, right? Living in the car, it sucked, but I mean, it was temporary. It wasn't. I knew for myself it wasn't going to be long term. I always had that optimism, because I was no longer putting my value in my apartment. I wasn't putting my value in my work or anything like that. So if someone said, hey, scrape this gum off the road for $20, $20 is $20. I ain't got no dignity because my dignity's inside. I'm good. Scrape, scrape, scrape. I don't care. I was doing anything. So that led us to getting enough money scraped together. She was working, I was working. We were working literally round the clock. And this goes into the next kind of phase of my mind of what is your body capable of? And I know what my body's capable of from the military, but I've never really pushed it in terms of working. Because when you're in the military, you really can only have one job. I never knew that you could have 3 jobs in the civilian world until I went out and did it. So I was working round the clock. I had about 4 hours of sleep, and that's all I could do. Outside that, it was just work and work and work. And we did that temporarily enough to scrape enough money together, try to find a place to go. Found some places up here in Ohio. So we moved from Savannah up here to Ohio, crashed on a couch, bounced around a little bit, and we did that for a while. Honestly, until so it was September of 2017. It wasn't until June of 2019 that we got our feet underneath of us.
So you stayed couch hopping, living in the car, working 3 jobs for a little over 18 months. Brother, that's
Not
incredible.
a single
man.
person knew that. When I was doing my MBA program, no one knew that. When I was working...
Hold on. Time out. You're doing all of this, living in your car, couch surfing. Nobody knows, and you're in the MBA program?
Yes.
Are you fucking insane? Like, what is... Like, you know, most people, it's enough to have 3 jobs, only getting 4 hours of sleep with their wife, living in their car. And you're like, hey, let me just fucking add something to this and get an MBA while I'm at it. Like, are you a little bit...
I dropped a job in there.
Okay. But you understand, it's a little bit like, I don't know. Isn't that a little masochist, don't you think? Like, that's painful, bro.
It is very painful, but to your point, the whole story and the context of everything is important because I just talked about my dad working 7 days a week, 14-hour days for 20 years. I think I can suck it up for 18 fucking months, right? And then I was in the military. I never partied, never had fun. It was Monday through Friday from literally 4 a.m. to about 8 p.m. that I was working. And then I would go home and then I would do my schoolwork and then I would go to bed. And that was my Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I would do school and then I would volunteer all of my time. I had no life my entire military career. Then I got out. This was just second nature to me. Why the fuck should you sit on the couch and watch TV? I never even had a TV. Like it was just second nature to me to go out there and bust my ass because I knew if I bust my ass hard enough, I will not be a failure. That was the only thing that was keeping me.
That's awesome because, I like to think of myself that way now, right? For example, I went over and met my buddy in Orlando, was there till 9:30, drove the hour and a half home, and then worked till midnight to make sure that I was caught up, prepared to do this with you today, right? Like just the grind, the discipline to grind. I knew that I was going to have to do that because, I chose to go do something for myself. But oftentimes, like a lot of people don't have that level of discipline. I wouldn't have been as well off as you were because I didn't always have that level of discipline. I did party. And, what do you think gives you that level of discipline? Is it just kind of the way you escaped all of the shit from your life? You just let me just lock in and not give myself a chance to think about this by keeping yourself busy with all these events, or what?
Yes, and just knowing the sacrifices that people have to make in order to get to where they want to be. Most people underestimate that big time. They think like, oh, I need to slave for 2 years, I need to get this MBA, I need to work really hard, I need to network, and then my life's gonna be good. And it's like, How about you multiply that by 5, and then you factor in you'll never watch TV, you'll never watch a movie, you'll always be the oddball in a networking situation because you don't have any small talk, but you know more than everybody in that room. You're more disciplined than anyone in that room, and you can kick anyone's ass in that room. And that it's kind of like a values thing. Which one do you value more? Do you value watching the TV, being the sports announcer, and being able to tell everybody what LeBron is doing and whatnot? Or do you value being literally the smartest person in the room? Or do you value being the most educated, the most accomplished, the most successful, the most hardworking, disciplined, whatever? If you value that more, you're going to work your ass off and you're going to make it work. So I looked at what successful people had to endure. I looked at my own life, what you were saying, but then I also look at the sacrifices that my parents made. You know, my mom coming from absolutely nothing, having a shitty ass life her whole life. And then my dad never experiencing anything, literally getting kicked out of his house in the 6th grade, having no education, no nothing, and busting his hump to become a bricklayer. And all the work that he put in got him to where he is today. So I looked at it and was like, who the hell am I to complain, first off? And then second off, if these things equate to success, there's nothing stopping me from becoming super successful if I just follow the paths of other people that have been wildly successful. Because I don't know if anyone that got out of the Marine Corps said, "Oh, my life sucks. Oh no, I guess I got nothing else going. And let me just clock into my 9 to 5 and just hate life." I don't know if none of those people that are super successful, but I know of the people that got out of the Marine Corps and said, "Listen, I respect my service, but also fuck my service. I'm on the next mission. I'm gonna kick ass."
You know,
Those
I
are the
love
people
that,
that
man.
make it.
I love that because it's incredible vision that I had to develop, right? Like I saw what successful people were doing, but I didn't really see what successful people were doing. Like you said, the grind and what goes into it. And I'm very much that way now. I do watch a movie every now and again. I spend a lot of time watching other podcasters on YouTube because I feel like that is a way for me to refine my craft, get ideas on how to ask better questions, shit like that. But it's funny when you really take on the entrepreneurial journey and you really submit to what that looks like, how you just start noticing your life transforming. And so was it during your time living in your car with your with your wife and getting your MBA that you got turned on to entrepreneurship? Like, how did you fall into entrepreneurship? Because you are a serial entrepreneur. You know, I did some research on you, and you have some things going on that you didn't mention in the questionnaire and in our conversation before. And I'm going to call you out on them if that's okay. But you know, I mean, you really do have an impressive resume, man. And I mean what I say when I say you're bringing so much value to veterans. And that's why I was so excited that you agreed to do this because, you know, not only does that help me grow, but like it helps me just educate the audience, man, and the community, because I do believe the path back to purpose is through entrepreneurship. I really, really genuinely believe that. And I believe that because of everything we've talked about. At the end of the day, you control all of it internally, right? You get to build this in the direction that you want to go so that it will always be there. You know what I mean? Like it's just an extension of you. You know what I mean? Am I making sense there? Like, do you agree with what I'm saying?
100%. No, 100%. And that revelation came the next year in 2018. So uh, I I found a gig because I did have, like I said, I got 2 certificates and on my way to getting my bachelor's degree. One of them was Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. So I did get something kind of valuable, and I wanted to put it to work, but I didn't know how. But I did find a company. They were looking for. It was so janky. They were looking for get this, a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt paralegal. I was like,
Oh boy.
fuck, I do have the legal experience and I do have my black belt. Hey, this is God's calling, right? This is an opportunity. So I apply and I get it. And that
And
was a
so, hey,
contract
just
gig.
real quick for those of us that are listening that don't understand what a Lean Six Sigma black belt is, can you just kind of shed some light on that? Because this really is tailored for those veterans who, what I've found just through communicating with them, and I think you probably find the same thing, they don't know entrepreneurship is an option. You know, I've been told so many times, like, thank you for what you're doing. And I don't have all this figured out. I'm very new to all of this. I'm very open and honest with that. And I basically am building in public, telling you all my failures, all my mistakes, all the things that you shouldn't do. But they're like, man, you're kicking a door open and showing us a light that we never knew existed. And so, you know, what is this Lean Six Sigma black belt? What can you do with those kind of certifications for those who aren't familiar?
Lean Six Sigma is kind of an older project management certification, if you will. So basically, Lean Six Sigma is based in engineering. You can go back to Toyota, you can go back to their just in time, you can go back to Kaizen and all these different concepts. Lean Six Sigma has a white belt, a yellow belt, a green belt, a black belt, and a master black belt. You can get your white belt pretty much just by existing. You can get your yellow belt by doing a project and having some experience. Your green belt is where it becomes actually valuable. Your green belt means that you understand projects, you understand how to continuously improve, continuous process improvement. You understand how to look for flaws. You understand how to systematize. You understand, right? You think of like a green belt as like a sergeant. Like you know what you're doing and you're good at it. A black belt, though, that's where you step into your staff NCOs. That's where you step into your officer rank. Your black belt is where you can actually lead other green belts in becoming a better organization. Making systems clear, concise, and just helping optimize the company as a whole. That's what Lean Six Sigma basically is just making things better. So I got my black belt, and this was an opportunity. Again, paralegal Lean Six Sigma black belt. That does not make sense to have in the same title, but that's what it was. I was like, okay, well, this is a calling, so I applied. I got it. It was a 6-month contract. They needed someone to come in and, through a legal lens, look at their processes and then improve their processes through a legal lens.
So this is probably for some compliance or something like that. I would assume if they're looking at it through a legal lens, that's the first thing that comes to mind is compliance, because that's huge.
They were going through a massive organizational change. They were restructuring. They had some corruption. They had some stuff happen, and they were rebranding themselves, coming out with new values, morals, principles, everything like that. And they hired a CFO. And the CFO was the one that actually put the announcement out there that we're looking for someone to help us come through on the compliance side, but also systematize everything. So I worked directly with the CFO. Great guy, but the contract was 6 months. 6 months. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm solid. It paid kind of decent. It was like 40,000. I was like, this is good. This is my first big boy job that I had. I wasn't scraping freaking toilets.
40 grand. Let's go.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
I made it, right? Now we're good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be homeless again. So I did it. And again, the same thing happened. I go in, I bust my ass, and I work as hard as I can because in my mind, I want to work there. And if I do the 6-month contract and they like me, they'll hire me. Crazy idea, right? So I do it. I go through, I look at all their stuff, I find tons of money that's being wired to family members and all this type of stuff.
So you found all the shady shit.
I found a ton of shady shit. I cleaned it all up and I rewrote processes. I saved the company time. I bounced around to different organizations or different departments. It was good. I did that all within about 3 months. It was just shy of 3 months that I did everything. And I thought, hey, 6-month contract, I did it in less than half of the time, saved you guys hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Surely there's a job for me. No. The job was, hey, thank you so much for doing a good job. Best of luck. We just saved a shit ton of money. And at that moment, I realized, oh my God, corporate is nothing more than the military. You're just a freaking number again. And that's when I got a mentor that came into my life. His name's Matt. He was in the Marine Corps as well. He came into my life and he said, "So I heard you lost your job." I was like, "Yeah, you got a job for me?" He's like, "So what I'm about to say is probably either going to piss you off or it's going to inspire you. I can't make your choice, but it's up to you. I don't believe in jobs. Jobs are slavery, jobs are handcuffs, and they're golden handcuffs because it's just enough money to keep you tied to your desk. And that's it. And best of luck with that. But if you want to do that, I'm not the guy for that. But if you want to learn entrepreneurship, you want to learn how to prevent what happened during the last couple months of your transition to never happen again, if you want to make sure that what happened at that last job never happens again, you need to learn how to be an entrepreneur." I said, "Well, I don't know the first freaking thing of that other than, it's risky." And he's like, "It is. But if you follow me for the next year, I'll change your life." And I said, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah, because at this point, what do you have to lose? You're still in your car, right? So okay, so you're on a couch, but also, I mean, your situation is not great, would you say? So that eliminates the fear of taking the risk, right? Like there's basically a risk reversal there. Like the only other place I can go is back to my car. You know what I mean? Like how bad can that actually be? Because you've already been doing that, dude, this is incredible, man. And I'm glad that you met this guy because I agree with what he said. I think jobs, I'm not in favor of them. I'm not against them for people to get started into entrepreneurship, particularly if they're, I'm an outlier. I don't have a family that I have to take care of. I've structured my finances in a way where I get to focus on this and not have a job, right? But I'm also not making money right now, which is fine. I understand that comes in time too, but I'm an outlier. Not everybody has that opportunity. And, that's important. Like, go get the job, learn some things, particularly in what you want to be an entrepreneur in. Take that with you, but don't get comfortable. And because you're right, they're golden handcuffs. I believe that. I call it the wage plantation. It's slavery. Our school system in the United States is designed to create slaves for corporations. Like you should really do some reading if that doesn't resonate with you and you can't see what I'm talking about. But for the audience, I know Dr. Crane definitely understands what I'm talking about, but like, was it John D. Rockefeller or Carnegie? One of the two.
Rockefeller. I did my second dissertation on that.
Okay, yeah. Rockefeller is the one who said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of doers," and created the entire public school system to create those workers during the Industrial Revolution. It's the same system that we operate on today. I encourage everybody who's listening to this to go do your research, and I guarantee you it'll make you sick at your stomach when you figure out what's actually going on. And I bet you it'll make that risk of entrepreneurship seem like a joke.
Absolutely. And the tax returns that I had for 2018, I made $1,200. $1,200 the whole year. Made $1,200 that year. It was probably the second hardest year of my life. Because really, that whole year, because it was basically June of 2017 to December of 2018, or even if you want to go September of 2017 to December, that whole year, worst year of my life, but also best year of my life, truly, because it taught me so much. And when I worked with this guy, he was in real estate. He was kind of a big name in real estate at the time. It was still on the up and up, but he was really, really good at what he was doing. And he came along and he said, "Listen, I've sold my company for 7 figures in the past. I've done all these different things. Like, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life because I can't stand working for anybody else. So I'll mentor you. I'll help you out. I'll do what I can. But at the end of the day, you'll learn. It's up to you." I said, "Okay, well, I'll take the challenge. If you think that I can do this, let's go." So I got my real estate license. I think it took me like 2 or 3 weeks. Went through the course, passed the test. Cool, that was no issue. Started working in real estate, but the thing for me wasn't real estate. I mean, real estate's cool, right? And you hear all these stories about real estate makes the most millionaires. That's false, by the way. All these different things. And you kind of look at it and you're like, well, this is cool. And no offense to any realtor out there, but you're a freaking sales agent. That's what you are. You're not like a big, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not a real entrepreneur. You're not a real business owner. You do have your own book of business. You do have your own stuff, but at the same time, you're just selling a commodity. Hey, there's a house. You want it? Cool. Let's go write the paperwork. That's what you're doing. So I can say that because I've been in it, right? But to me, it wasn't the end goal by any means. I looked at it as a way for me to get really close to the right group of people to help me accomplish my main goal, which was two things. My wife and I promised each other this: we're never being homeless again, and we're going to do everything in our power to prevent other people from having to do the same thing. That was our main mission. And by being around this person, he promised that at the end of it, he's going to teach me how to fish and not give me a fish. That was step one, right? Never becoming homeless again. So the whole time I worked with him, I just picked his brain. He wanted me to go out and sell, and he was trying his best to help me on that side, but I'm like, yeah, respectfully, I'd much rather just listen to you. You're like the wise old man in the corner. Tell me about your first business. Tell me about that $7 million buyout. Tell me about this or whatever. Tell me that. Tell me your thought process. How do you manage your time? You've got all these things. How do you block things out? What's the 168 game? What's the lingo? That's what I was passionate about, and I absorbed everything like a freaking sponge. I did anything I could to just breathe the same air as this man so that I could just learn. And that taught me more than anything in my MBA.
I love that you're talking about that, because you, as a smart person, you talked about it earlier, like wanting to be the smartest person in the room. Have you ever found yourself as not the smartest person in the room?
When I'm in a good situation, yes. Unfortunately, I find myself as the smartest person in the room, and I hate it because I don't want to be.
Yeah, isn't it awesome when you get in a room full of people who are way smarter than you, and you just shut the fuck up, and you're like, I hope that I can retain an nth of the information that is being gifted to me right now. It's incredible, and I'm coming from a point where I never thought that I was capable of getting access to those rooms. And as I continue this journey and as I start to grow, I'm seriously, like, genuinely floored at the opportunities that are being presented to me because I just put myself out there and I took some action. And it's like, I just got invited to a mastermind for podcasters in Atlanta at the end of July. And I started doing my research on this mastermind because there is an investment involved, but it's like, oh shit, like this is an opportunity that I should absolutely take advantage of. Like you don't actually get into this mastermind without an invite. You know what I mean? And then you still have to pay money. And it's like, oh, I am capable of getting into these rooms because I just got invited to this thing,
Yep. And the investment piece is probably the scariest piece for people that are beginning, because I was on the couch of someone's, right? And this guy told me, hey, just get your real estate license. I'm like, with what money? He's like, that's your first step. Figure that one out. I was like, fuck. So I had to scrape and claw my way to get, I think it was like $1,000 or something. I think it was like $1,000 to do the testing and all that. I figured it out. I paid. I robbed Peter to pay Paul and everything. Like, I did anything I could to make it happen because I'm like, this is an opportunity, and I took it.
When I think what he was teaching you is if you want something bad enough, you will figure out how to make it happen, which is, I think, an essential first lesson to learn about entrepreneurship, right? Like, you can make anything happen. You really can. And it's not going to seem like it's working at the time, and you're going to feel lost a lot, and you're going to be like, fuck, I just don't know. But you're doing something to get to that goal. And man, I think that's awesome, dude. Your mentor sounds really cool. I'd love to meet him someday.
He's a cool guy. And the one, he was a Marine, but he's a cool guy in the fact that he really is super, super, super humble. I mean, the dude's got money, but the dude is so humble. He's one of those guys where you would see him on the street and you'd be like, okay, this guy probably works at Kroger, makes $15 an hour. Like, you would never expect this guy to be who he is and what he's done. And that's what really attracted me to him as well, was this guy is just a simple human being, and he speaks very normal. He's not educated, he doesn't have a bachelor's. I mean, he doesn't have anything. He just always wanted to have freedom. And freedom for him was entrepreneurship. And so he bounced around into some things. He landed on real estate because he actually likes it. Like, he likes the houses, he likes the infrastructure, he likes that. Cool. So that's where
Not
he
me.
found his thing.
I'm not into that. Yeah. So through all this, you get your real estate license. What came first? Was it founding a veteran roadmap, or was it NIA?
Great question. So fast forward, so that was 2018. 2019 is where I had my breakthrough, right? Because 2019 I graduated with my MBA. I got a job offer with a company. It was a veteran company, but I got a job offer with them to take over their learning and development and to start building out courses and classes and teaching and become a global consultant and stuff like that. That led to another job that led to another job that led to me working at DARPA, Space Force integration, 2019. Bunch of stuff happened in 2019. 2019 was things are clicking. And
so 2019, the fuel gets dumped on the fire.
Exactly, right. 2018 was kind of the ramp up, $1,200 a year, working under that mentor, getting everything good. 2019 was when things really started taking off in the right direction. And then it was 2020 that my life changed. 2020, well, actually, December of 2019. Here it is. December of 2019, I have my evaluation for my CMP eval for disability. I go in for my claims and pension exam, for my mental health, and all these things that the military found wrong, right? I go in, and at this point, I mean, life was pretty bad. Pending divorce, I was still technically kind of homeless, right? I didn't really have anything going for me. I did have a job, I did have some things, but I mean, my life was still pretty freaking shambles, and there was no good outlook in the future at that point. And so I go into the evaluation, and the psychologist sat me down and said, I know it's going to be hard, but just lay it out there for me, and I really want to help you. I want to make sure I document all the stuff that's going on in your life and how you're feeling so that we can get you, the proper benefits. I said, you sure? And I said, yeah, let it all out. I said, all right, stand by. And I let it out.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
She's bawling her eyes out. I mean, I've never seen a psychologist break down. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. All these different things. She's writing like a maniac. And she's just like, oh my God, I can't believe all these things happened to you, blah, blah. And then she says, do you want to hurt yourself? And I said, well, that's a trick question, because if I say yes, you're gonna press the little buzzer and I go to the padded room. Or I say no, and then I lie, and then I don't get any benefits. And she's like, so I was like, yeah, I do. I've kind of studied this a little bit. I know that's what it comes down to. And that's kind of sad, but that's what it comes down to. And she's like, listen, I may have to press the buzzer, okay? But I can't prevent you from walking out of here. Let me just say that. And I said, okay, fair enough. I see what you're putting down. I'll pick it up. Then yeah. Here we go. Yeah, I do. I think about it often. because I've really got nothing else going on in my life right now. And if I honestly, as I get up and leave here, if a truck hits me, who cares? I really got nothing to live for at this point. I'm just living for myself. And she's like, okay, I will document this. Yeah, you're free to leave. Obviously, I got to make a report and whatnot. But please just know. And she looks at me and she's like, please just know, I will make this right for you. Okay? I will take care of you. And I said, okay, I appreciate that. I get in my car and I leave. 3 weeks later, now we're in January. 3 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail from the VA saying, hey, we have your results. I said, moment of truth. Pop it open it up, pull out the letter, start reading it. Member has been found to neither increase nor decrease. Member symptoms remain the same. Evaluation remains the same. I said, how? Like, how? You just said you're going to take care of me. I know that I'm way worse than where I was. And I know all these things are pending and happening in my life, and it's not good. How in the hell are you going to sit there and say nothing's changed? Best of luck. That moment was another moment that all the power from me left, and I had to basically give it to someone else. And that was a very depowering situation, right? It makes you feel like you can't provide, you can't do anything. And no matter what you say and no matter what you do, other people are going to control your future, which is what I always try to get away from. So when I read that letter, I had a choice: wallow or scorch earth. And I chose scorch earth because I'm like, I've been wallowing. There's nothing that's coming from that. I've tried being
scorched
a
earth
victor.
is a common theme in your life, from hell bent on getting Lance Corporal to you didn't shit for 45 days to getting an MBA while you're working 2 jobs in your car, right? Scorched earth is your MO, right?
It really is. And that's why when I got that letter, I had to make a decision right then and there. What am I going to do? Because nothing else is going right. What am I going to do? I'm going to burn down the VA. Like, I'm going to burn down this system. I'm going to find out everything that there is to know about this system. I'm going to learn their game. I'm going to learn the whole thing. And I'm going to shove it up their ass. And I'm going to make them regret ever giving me this letter. And that's exactly what I did. So I went hellbent. A couple weeks later, got in touch with the company, got my 100% disability, took care of everything. Then from there, I immediately reached out and said, hey, you obviously know stuff that I don't, and you obviously are helping thousands of veterans. How can I help? And they said, well, it's not really a thing, but I don't know. I mean, you could market for us or whatever. And I said, great. I'm going to learn everything because, again, I became a sponge and I just wanted all the information so I can learn and I can prevent this from happening. A couple months later, opened up my first big company, and that company focused on disability ratings and helping veterans around the world get their 100%. Because now I know the system, now I know the game, now I know the corruption from talking with different Congress people and different things that are going on behind the scenes. Now I know their system. I know exactly how to play that system. And I say play it, and I really do mean play it, because they want to make it a game. We'll play the game. No worries. So in the Marine Corps, Milton Bradley, the drill instructor's got more games than Milton Bradley. It's a game. I'll play the game. If that's the game you want to do, let's play. So that's really where the first big company came from.
Yeah, I got a buddy that's doing that for a company called Remedical. I think they just merged with another company, and basically it's a small nominal fee to get veterans up to 100% in most cases, and it ends up being so worth it between whatever back pay there might be for some of the other things. And I know they're getting ready to stand up a CRSC division that helps with that. I'd like to be a part of that because I get a lot of people that come to me about CRSC, and dude, that's incredible. So that's the basis of the veteran roadmap. Is that where that all started?
That, again, everything's fortuitous, right? Everything happens hindsight. At the moment I created that company, it was kind of everything coming together in a weird vision of I'm going to create something that no one else has created, in being able to go from where I was in 2017 to where I'm going to go, right? Where I'm going to go. Because I was not there at that time, right? I just hit my first milestone. That's it. But I knew there was so much left in that roadmap. And so I created a company called Veteran Roadmap. I got the logo made. I created, I casted the vision. I had no fucking idea what the vision actually meant, right? I just knew that I wanted to create 360 degrees of care for veterans. And so I created the first company called 360 Veteran. And that is the medical disability company. From there, everything else just continued to lay the groundwork for what would ultimately come back around and be the Veteran Roadmap. Because now we've completed every single milestone from going from homeless to retired in 5 years.
Dude, and I think that's an amazing point that you're making there is it's fortuitous in that very much most of my journey has been informed by just taking some kind of action, meeting with some kind of person, learning some kind of new skill, which informs the direction that this goes. And it sounds like that's very much how your journey went, right? Like you just learn something new, take some kind of action, meet some kind of person, have information on some event in your life that sparks this idea that informs what direction you need to go next. Am I nailing that pretty good?
Exactly.
Dude, that's awesome. So you started 360 Veteran. I'm really interested in talking a little bit, if you don't mind, about networking in action. I know you didn't mention any of that on any of the questionnaire, and I'm fascinated by your story, man. So plus, I just feel like as a podcaster, you have to do your research on your guests because it makes for better conversation. But you talk about networking in action. I saw the website. I really, it resonates with me because I think I really do believe in your network is your net worth. I talked about it earlier, being invited to the mastermind. What appeals to me about the mastermind is not what I'm going to learn there. It's the people I'm going to meet there. And can you talk a little bit about networking in action, how you got involved with that and what it means to you? And do you really believe like your network is your net worth, or do you have another philosophy that you live by?
Yes. And here's why. And so that's really the last puzzle piece of the Veteran Roadmap. So it's 6 components. The first part's your disability. And then once we did that for a couple hundred veterans, the biggest problem that we recognized that was coming next was financial planning, estate planning, understanding now that you have $3 million of benefits in your pocket, what are you doing with them? And kind of shaping financial literacy the way it's supposed to be, which is insurance, estate planning, and protection at the bottom as a solid base, and then investing, and then focusing on growing your net worth. Every other financial advisor that's out there always typically starts with, well, you need to get a 401k, you need to get a Roth IRA, you need to do this, you need to save, you need to whatever. The first thing you need to do is like your estate plan. Like you need to get your wills, your trust, your medical directorates. You need to get that stuff established. Then you need to focus on the insurance piece because if something happens to you, nothing else matters. So financial literacy, educating veterans, doing financial planning, helping out people with their money. That was the second piece. Once we did that, so basically now we have a safety net. Now we also have them retired early. The next piece of the puzzle was the healing portion and the coaching portion. So HBOT therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Most people never even heard about it. I invite everyone to look it up. It's massively powerful if you have a TBI, sleep apnea, mental health, anything like that, and just completely changing the chemistry of your body. Ayahuasca. There's another one, Igboya.
Ibogaine, yeah,
Ibogaine, yeah.
iboga. So iboga, ayahuasca, psilocybin, mushrooms, ketamine is another good one. Bufo, which is the actual toad venom. I mean, there's a bunch of different plant medicines out there. I've got some opportunities to sit with some very smart people in the plant medicine space in my future, and I will probably do it. I'm a big believer in all that stuff, man. It really did change my life. And I talk about ayahuasca. I've talked about it several times on here. I'm not embarrassed by it. It's a cheat code, but it's a cheat code that comes with a lot of work on the back end, right? Like, you can't just go take it and think that your whole life's going to change. I mean, it's fundamentally going to change you as a person, I would think. And I'm not an expert because I've only had one 3-day ceremony, but everything I've learned from it and the way my life has changed and the capacity that I have for work now and to love and respect myself. And dude, it's a beautiful thing. And I really, that's why I'm drawn to the psychedelic integration and addiction recovery, because I know how powerful it is. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need plant medicine to do that. But some of the lessons I learned from plant medicine and the tools that I've gotten, I would love to pass along to others, because those are the things that are actually going to help you start your healing journey. And that's really what it's about.
The whole idea of the healing came from, one, an open mind, but two, that idea of always absorb things like a sponge. And there was someone that mentioned to me, they're like, if traditional medicine works for you, use traditional medicine. But if it's not working for you and there's another option, you would literally be stupid to not try that. And I said, makes sense to me. Let's try it. And then myself and countless other veterans can attest to this. The VA's medicine works for some people. Good. Use that. The VA's medicine does not work for a lot of people, including myself. So we tried something else. We tried the woo-woo magic. We tried the holistic herbs and the jungle fairies and stuff. We tried that, and it worked. So
Yeah,
maybe
because you've
this
had a
works for you.
smile on
Maybe
your
this
face
works
for this whole conversation. You've had a smile on your face this whole conversation, talking about some difficult things. And you're right, man. I agree with you. The VA works for some people. I like to use the VA as leverage for like things that I need traditional medicine for, i.e. fixing body parts that are just degenerative because of the nature of the career. But when it comes to the mental and spiritual, that stuff, very much the holistic woo-woo, people are going to judge you, but yeah, dude, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, breath work, all that shit, it's phenomenal. Works. It works fast. It's not like a medicine that the VA is going to put you on where it takes. I think I did a interview with James Artman on here that's going to release soon, and he talked about it's like a 12-year dialing in of pills to make you feel normal. And I'm like, who the fuck has time for that, man? Like, ayahuasca is a cheat code in that I did it in a fucking week. You know what I mean? Like, a week, I changed my life. There's something to that. You know what I mean?
That goes back to having the open mind, though. Everyone's going to mock you. Everyone's going to think that that's stupid, but then you can't doubt the results. If it works for you, it works for you, and more power to you. And for me, it certainly worked. And I'm not trained like you are, brother. I'm not that good at ibogaine and everything else, but I know just the basics. As stupid as it sounds, hydrating, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, focusing on the difference between deep sleep and REM sleep. Get yourself an Oura ring. Something simple as changing the way that you look at food, changing your breath work, changing how much water you're drinking, and changing your sleep. That's it. And notice how I didn't say adjust your diet. Change the way you look at food. That's it. Just change the way you look at it. and you'll have a difference. But if you really just focus on hydration, sleep, and breath work, meditation, whatever, your life will be so fucking different in the next 30 days. You're going to look back and be like, well, damn, okay. Well, all the pills didn't seem to do this. This stuff seems to do it. I'm not sure why it works, but it works, so I'm going to continue to do it. There you go. Just focus on those three things. And that's part of coaching, right? That's part of the healing journey of just focusing on you can empower yourself. If you are relying on medications from someone, the power's outside your hands. But if you can control how much water you take, that's you. You can control what's going on up here with your breath work, that's you. You can control your sleep, that's you. No one else can control that stuff but you. So you're empowering yourself and you're focusing on realizing that I can lose fucking 100 pounds in less than a year. From you, not from Ozempic.
No, and I'll be fair, right? I lost my first 60 pounds before I got introduced to hormone replacement, testosterone, TRT. I am an avid user of TRT. I actually just was in Orlando to have the appointment that the FDA says I have to have in order to be on it once a year. It's supplemental. I got healthy first. Because when I went to Peru, I was 311 pounds. My blood pressure was through the roof. My blood work said I was pre-diabetic. I think I was actually diabetic. Dude, everything hurt. Just everything, right? After the ayahuasca, I pay attention, like you said, to food. I didn't understand what I didn't understand about gut health and how it's tied to everything. And that's why I love what you said. It's not changing your diet. It's paying attention to what you're putting into your body. Processed foods are shit. Sugar is the worst thing in the fucking world, and you're never going to convince me otherwise. And you know why I say that? Because I am a sugar addict. I am addicted to sugar. I have a sweet tooth, and it was killing me. Now I'm the complete opposite. I went third Reich on the fucking sugar, and I pay attention to if there's not enough fiber to cancel out, and I say cancel out, it's not really how it works, but if there's not enough fiber in there to make up for the added sugars that's in it, I won't eat it. I won't do it. My birthday was a couple of weeks ago. My wife made me a lemon cake like she always does because I love it. It took 2 weeks to get through that cake because I felt disgusting when I would eat the smallest piece of it. Whereas before I might as well have just been eating half the cake in a night. You know what I mean? Dude, I'm on board with everything you're saying. And it's amazing to me that this has been hidden from us our entire lives. Why is this not taught? Why is it frowned upon to have these conversations? Just like how I feel about fiscal education, right? Financial literacy in America. Why was I 33 years old before I learned how money worked?
Yep. That is sad. That our education system's not made for that. Our education system is from 8 to 3. What else is from 8 to 3? Oh, like a 9 to 5? Like a 8 to 4? That's interesting, right? And then what do you do in school? You sit there and you listen. And what do you do in a job? You sit there and you listen and you take orders. And then they give you little assignments. They're called assignments because they're little tasks. They're little assignments that your boss gives you. Everything, it's the same freaking structure. Same exact structure. You can't get up and go to the bathroom without asking for permission. Your job is going to install certain software in your computer to watch to make sure your mouse is moving. They track every keystroke. They even if your computer has a camera, there's software that tracks your eye movement. They can see if you're looking at your phone. They can see all these things. And we can go on and on for days on that one.
Dude, this is man. So let's talk a little bit about the networking.
So yeah.
So I'm fascinated by that because I don't know. I think I have a podcast because I enjoy it. This is so much fun for me. I love talking to other people. I love learning from other people. The hidden agenda behind the podcast, I think I've said it a couple of times here, is, dude, I get a few hours of your time to get a masterclass from somebody who went from homeless to retired in 5 years. Like, this is a dream, dude. It's like a wet dream for me. I get to just learn all the time from really cool people, really accomplished people. And so that's why I'm so hard on this network thing, right? We as veterans should be experts at networking. and I'm kind of coming around to the idea of like, maybe that's a part of my offer is teaching people how to network, but I really don't even know where to start with that because it just comes natural to me. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Networking was the last piece of the veteran roadmap puzzle, because once we get you healthy, once we get you thinking right, once we take care of the body, we focus on what's your next mission. And the next mission is the fifth step, which is either consulting, right? I'm going to help you build your business. Maybe it's consulting on building your nonprofit through Nonprofit Creator. Shout out to Adam Gaskill, who helped me build mine. Maybe it's getting your resume and going back into a 9-to-5 or a 1099 because you choose to do that, not because you have to do that. Whatever it is, that's the fifth step, is figuring out what are you going to do next. You're still probably 30, 40, 50 years old. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? That sixth and final step is networking action. That sixth and final step is the networking piece, because all around the globe, there's veterans. There's tons of websites out there. And I think I even shared one with you.
We're going to talk about that, so don't spoil it. Yeah, I want to, if you're okay with it, I would like to talk about that on here.
100%, yeah. But I mean, there's veterans all around the globe. All around the globe. And so if you are able to understand what networking is and what it can do for you, it will open up so many opportunities and open up your perspective of other people's identities and how they've been able to be shaped and molded by their environment. So network in action, it's a franchise. It's a global franchise. I'm actually, if anyone's listening, anyone's interested in actually buying a few groups, reach out to me. I've got a few extra groups that I'm looking to sell off. So happy to help you out.
Let's talk after we record, because I'm interested.
I'm going to give you the homie hookup on that one. But yeah, it's a global franchise. It's second largest to BNI. Everyone's heard of Business Network International. Network in Action looked at what BNI did, and they appreciated it because it's easy. Anybody can join. It's anywhere from $700 to $1,100 a year in membership. It's really made for the entry-level entrepreneur to get the mindset of waking up early, being accountable, doing a routine, all that kind of stuff. So it has a purpose. But then the next step up, this is what most people don't realize. The next step up from BNI is Vistage. Vistage is a $4,500 minimum. Some of them go up to like $6,000, $7,000. $4,500 minimum annual membership. And what Vistage is executive coaching. It's not a referral group. It's not a networking group. It's an executive coaching mastermind type group where they gather business owners that are doing a lot of money. Like, you got to qualify to get into Vistage. It's only C-suites that are allowed in Vistage. So you're around top performers, and they coach you, and you're coached by a former executive at a company. So they know what they're doing. The other people in the room are high achievers. You got to earn your way into it, and you got to pay a lot of money to be part of it. But that's good.
I want to say a little caveat about this real quick, because I just joined a program called ACA where I get a C-suite mentor for an entire year for free. And I am stoked. I have that meeting on Monday, and dude, I am. And so don't think, for those listening, what Dr. Crane's talking about with this $4,500 membership, as a veteran, we have an incredible opportunity out there that costs us nothing. And I mean, this ACP mentorship thing, I heard about it from one of the guys that went on the Peru trip with me. He dropped it in the Signal chat. I immediately went and signed up. Immediately, less than 24 hours, got an email saying, hey, schedule your call. We want to talk to you. 24 hours after that, I'm having an hour-long phone conversation with the lady who's going to find me a mentor. 2 weeks later, I'm on the books and have a mentor for an entire year. This dude he's a Green Beret. He was in the second ID like I was before he went special operations, and he's listened to the podcast, and he's like, dude, I'm so excited. I'm jazzed to work with you for the year. So just the little quick caveat on what you were talking about, because I want to put out as many resources as I can when they come up in conversation. And I think that's an important one, because you're already talking about networking in action and Vistage and all the opportunity that comes with it. And there is free opportunity out there for veterans, and it's amazing.
100% your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth, because the people that you know, in the nicest way, right? You can influence them is the correct word, but not manipulate, but you can utilize people kind of like pawns, and move them around. And I need this going on right now. If I need my house painted, I got two people that are veterans that own painting franchises in the area, and because I've networked with them, they're giving me 50% off. I just need to find a time and find a color, and that's because of the network. That's not because of anything else, but that's because I've invested in our relationship, and they're like, "Hey, I got the homie hookup. Like, you need something, I got you, man." Because they know if they reach out to me, I'm gonna give them the homie hookup on all veteran resources and anything that's out there, and that's gonna help them. That's gonna help more of their clients.
Well, I think that's important too, because we're having a conversation with someone who is, I assume at this point, very wealthy. I'm not. It's none of my business, but you've walked the long road from destitute to flourishing, and like networking and who you know, and the opportunities that they give you to learn and grow and just consume is, man, it's just so, like, why does nobody teach this?
Yeah, it goes back to the education piece, I guess, right? I mean, it's too powerful. They don't want you to realize it. And there's not a. What's funny is there's not a degree in networking. I would love to be one of the first people to go into a university and to create an entire curriculum around networking, and to literally either make it a full blown like master's certificate program, or either even like a master's degree program in professional networking and what it can do and how you can build it. Because a lot of people, they look at an MBA as a professional networking degree, basically, and it is, right? I mean, a degree, your MBA is really based on if you're getting into a top 25 school, and if you are able to, then the value comes from the actual people that you meet, not from the education itself, because all schools are teaching the same education. You go to a random school out in Nebraska, you're getting the same education as someone in Harvard, but you're not making the same connections. And that's why Harvard's MBAs are worth 300,000 and Nebraska's MBA, I don't know, maybe 50,000. That's the difference.
It's funny. I've talked to several people that have an MBA on here, and I'm like, man, how am I going to talk to somebody with an MBA? And I have a bachelor's degree in a choose your own adventure school that I called business and psychology. And they all say the same thing. Really, your MBA is about who you meet. It's not really about the education that you get. A lot of them, one comes to mind. She got her MBA and she's like, I don't use this shit. I've learned more on LinkedIn from how to build a business than I ever learned in my MBA program. Is that kind of true?
100%, because an MBA, again, you got to think about, an MBA doesn't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. An MBA teaches you how to be a good manager for a company inside of a company. It doesn't teach you how to build your own company. Even entrepreneurship programs are still, even to this day, they're still very, 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 some exceptions, but most of them are very, very, very academia focused on, you need to find your MVP, your minimal viable product. You need to find your USP, your unique selling proposition. Like, it's all textbook stuff, and it's good, right? It gets you the lingo, but it doesn't actually show you the hardship and the realness of business, and the fact that most successful businesses that you see today, they didn't have a vision, they didn't have a mission, they didn't have anything. They had a cool idea, and they're like, fuck it, I want to make this thing work. And they throw shit at the wall until something sticks, and then they get a lucky break. That's how most businesses are made.
Speaking of which, you've got a new business that's coming around, and you've really been influential and really started challenge in my thinking since the conversation we had in the PDF you sent me about becoming an expat. I'm extremely interested in that, particularly because, again, going back to plant medicine, I would like to go to Costa Rica to be closer to that and do more work with that, because I just know what the benefits are of me. Plus, I don't know, since doing plant medicine, I feel in tune with these energies, and there's a lot of bad energy in this country right now, and I want to get the fuck away from it. So let's talk about what you're doing with that kind of entrepreneurial journey. And I forget what it's even called, so I apologize. I spend a lot of time with that PDF, though. I've read almost every word twice. And I know it's not finished. I know there's still more to come, but if you don't mind sharing with us what that's about, and what your vision and why you created this, and if you're going to participate in this as well.
I'm more than like 99% sure I'm participating in that. So it's funny because I'm still in the roadmap. The veteran roadmap's never ending because the transition is never ending. Change and taxes are the only thing that's certain in life. And if you are able to master taxes, financial literacy, and if you're able to master change, one of my doctorates is in, then you're able to master life, because everything's going to continuously change, including the dynamics of this country. So networking, or network in action, and the networking piece allowed me to, because it's a global franchise, allowed me to connect with people overseas and kind of open my eyes up to what does life look like in the Philippines, in Japan, in Spain, in Costa Rica, in Chile, in Argentina, and South Africa, all over the world. And what I learned was kind of astonishing. There's a lot. When I say a lot, I mean there are thousands, if not millions, of veterans that are expats that are living overseas. Because I want you to think about it for a second. If you live here in the US, can you realistically make it by with just $4,000 a month? Kinda. Depends on where you live, depends on your quality of life, depends on what you're doing, but $4,000, especially in today's hyperinflation, $4,000 a month is not going to do much for you. But if you go to Costa Rica and you take $4,000, you can live a good life. You take it to Colombia, you can live a good life. You take it to Spain, you can live a good life. You take it to the Philippines, you take it to even places that have a really low standard of living, you can absolutely, you can
Live like a king.
absolutely live like a freaking king. I have friends over in Philippines. They live off the $4,000 a month. They have other, jobs and stuff like that because they're bored. But the $4,000 a month alone, because they have their free medical, they have their health, they have everything taken care of. That 4K is making them live like they're making 30K a month here in the US. Just think about that for a minute. If you're making 30K a month here in the US, what's your life look like? It's pretty damn good, right? If you can live off 4K a month overseas and basically have the same quality of life as 30K here in the US, and then on top of that, you have another income just because you choose to have one, can you imagine what you're living like? Now you're living like you're making 50K, 75, 100K a month. Now you're living like a millionaire in a different country. The standard of living is different. The health care is completely different. And most importantly, I think what you were talking about, the energy and the just the feeling of community, the feeling of oneness with nature, the feeling of this drink, this water that I'm having, it's not going to kill me. The air I'm breathing actually is crisp and clear. It's coming from the ocean or whatever. Like that, you can't get here. You can get it in other places.
I mean, there's so many other things too, right? I just read an article 2 days ago. It was talking about studying the food quality in different countries in the world, and people going on vacation, particularly to Latin America, for a period of 7 days or more, eating the same exact amount of food or the way that they would eat here in the United States and lose weight, significant amounts of weight. Something I noticed when I went to Peru, I went to Tarapoto, Peru, at the base of the Amazon rainforest, and then the retreats up in the high jungle, at the top of the jungle, but it's poor. It's third world for sure. Like what I did notice though was there's no homeless problem. They don't tolerate drugs on the street. Everyone is happy. Everyone is friendly. Just genuinely happy. And it's weird to me, but because I was there to sit with the medicine, they thought I was like some superhuman because they're afraid of the medicine. So you just had this aura of respect around you. But honestly, man, I don't speak Spanish. When I was there, I remember driving around Tarapoto after the retreat and like just trying to get a rickshaw to take me somewhere so I don't have to walk across this giant city or whatever, and just see stuff. And they didn't care that I tried to speak Spanish, you know what I mean? But I pulled up a map on my phone and I pointed to where I want to go. And he's like, yeah. Right. Like I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. If you haven't been out of the country and experienced this, you're missing out. Yeah, you're missing out because I'm telling you, after I read the PDF you sent me, and I don't even know, if that's complete yet or not. I know you said you had more to add to it. It really opened my eyes to, oh, this really is possible. And, life could be, you talk about the healing journey. Well, taking yourself out of negative energy, being consumed with darkness, and putting yourself in a place that lets light flourish. And, there's something to that, man. And I'm captivated by it.
Going overseas will change your life. The way that you live, the way that you breathe, the way that you just interact with people. Because in America, I forget the name of the website. I think it's a2z.com, like atagz.com or atagzworld.com or something like that. But you can basically go around and you can look at all of these countries and you can evaluate if they're more communal or if they're more individualistic. If the countries that have more community based, which is the vast majority of the world, their quality of life is higher because they have that community, they have that camaraderie, they have that connection with other people. Here in the US, we're very individualistic, which is you do you, I do me, and let's just go our separate ways.
Well, I think there's more to that, right? We're materialistic here. And what I notice, particularly in Peru, is nobody's materialistic. They share, they offer help. They don't really give a shit if their rickshaw is the best rickshaw on the street. Plus, I don't know, the way you drive over there is completely fucked up. And so you probably don't want a nice car over there. Also, there's not emphasis put on all of these things. I remember walking around to the stores and it's a lot of handmade stuff with meaning, particularly surrounding the medicine where I was at. Tarapoto is known for that. And so that was another big difference. And I think, we're over here, we chase status and we chase material things. One of my goals for myself to reward myself for all the hard work, I want to buy a Ram TRX and I want to pay cash for it. Obviously that's not going to work out well for the expat life. Like that truck is way too big to be anywhere but in the United States. But, I don't own a vehicle right now. My wife and I own one vehicle. It's hers. It's her dream truck. And I sacrificed that to build, to create the life that I want. And letting go of material things, like you said earlier, not having a TV, not watching TV. I do have TVs. I have TV in my bedroom because I do like to lay in bed and do my podcast research. That's just who I am. And I know that about myself. But I also have systems in place to keep that in check and maintain focus on the ultimate goal. And the expat lifestyle really appeals to me for a lot of those reasons because it's easier to facilitate letting go of the materialistic, the status chasing. When you are able to live a better life on the income that you earned from your service, that does wonders for your mental health. You let go of constantly chasing dollars and worrying about dollars. And I'm here to tell you, just because I structured my finances in a way that allows me to do this all the time doesn't mean that I'm rich or that I, have an abundance. Oh, I like to think that I have an abundance of money, but that's just a little mindfulness trick that I use for myself. But I don't have excess cash that I can go and do all the things I want to do right now. That was the sacrifice I was willing to make. But if I was already in Costa Rica living like that, doing what I'm doing now, I would have the disposable income to go and live a better life. And I think these are all things. I'm glad I met you and you introduced me to this, because you presented the expat lifestyle to me in a way that hadn't been presented before. What I had seen was social media research of guys building a business out of teaching people how to do this, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. I think that's incredible. There's plenty to go around, and they're not doing any harm. They're just educating, and education costs money. Period. Colleges charge you money. Why can't individuals teach you what they know to get you a better life and charge you money? But they're not the best at explaining it. Your PDF was amazing. It broke down everything from how far the dollar will go to why you might want to live here to what you can expect in the lifestyle here. And man, we could talk about this all day. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I enjoy what you've got going on, man. And I think it's amazing.
I appreciate it, and that's the end of the veteran roadmap, if you will, right? That's the final step. Is once you network with people overseas, then you can make that decision. I've taken jobs that are technically overseas. As a remote worker, even here in the U.S., I've taken remote jobs overseas, and overseas you can take remote jobs here. There's so many options available, but once you network with those people, you learn the options, and then they're more than happy to sit there for an hour and explain, especially in Spain during their siesta. Just explain like, hey, you're a veteran, I'm a veteran, I moved over here, life's awesome, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to look up the golden passport, you need to buy a property in Portugal for $10,000, you need to move over here, you need to do this. Like, they give you the freaking roadmap of how to actually transition over there. It didn't cost me anything. It cost me a couple hours of my time, and just community and networking with them on, hey, how did you make that change? Is this something you would recommend? What are some roadblocks and whatnot? So that's what I mean. Your net worth is your network is your net worth.
Network is your net worth
Because of that reason.
And I think it's really good to keep harping on your network is your net worth, but your net worth doesn't necessarily equate to money. It also equates to feeling fulfilled in the life that you're living. To me, that's what it means, more than anything. And I've adopted this philosophy. I don't know why there's fireworks on my fucking screen right now. I can't figure out how to turn this shit off, and it pisses me off. But whatever. I find that letting go of making money, it was a lot easier than I thought, especially when you adopt the mindset that, like, if I continue to help people, the money is just going to come, and it's going to come in way more abundance than if I was going out and slaving for it. Misery, right? Dr. Crane, what are your long-term goals for the veteran roadmap? And a personal question for me, what country do you think you're going to live the expat lifestyle in?
So long-term vision, and it's actually in our nonprofit book that's coming out July 4th, The Calling. It's 10 years. So the 10-year stretch. In 10 years, help 10,000 veterans and do $10 billion in benefits. So we're about a third of the way through that. I mean, just think about that. We're like a third of the way through that, and we're 3 years in. So yeah, exponential growth and everything. It sounds like a real hairy, audacious goal. It's not.
It's a realistic goal, man. That's an amazing. Like you're 33% of the way there in 3 years. That's amazing. Congratulations, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So 2020 to 2030, that's our span of wanting to accomplish this. So that was 10 years, 10,000 vets, and $10 billion. So that's the long-term vision. How we're going to continue to do that is just continue to grind and continue to do what we do. Maybe bring on some more people to help out. Maybe introduce SkillBridge by the end of the year. We've got some connections with that. So we'll just see how the rest of the year and the rest of the next 6 years pans out for us. As far as where I might settle down, it's a tough one. But we've looked at
There's so many good options.
We've looked at Costa
There's so many good options.
We've looked at Philippines. We've looked at Dominican Republic. We've looked at Portugal. We've looked at Italy. But the number one place Spain.
Why Spain?
Why Spain? One, you're in Europe, you're in the EU, you do have a lot of benefits, you do have a lot of stuff with that. Two, Spain is very, very, very cheap, very, very, very affordable in terms of the EU when you compare it to France, Germany, Europe. Well, England's no longer, London, UK, they're no longer in there. But you look at other countries, Spain is very freaking affordable to be part of the EU. And now on top of that, the stability, the safety, the quality of life, the siesta, right? The afternoon breaks, the work-life balance, everything that has to do with Spain is just super calling for us because we value people, we value community, we value safety, and we value just being able to live our life and go to the market and buy a loaf of bread and go home and take time and cut it open, spread some fucking butter on it. I mean, just like enjoy life. And Malaga, Spain, specifically, is where we're looking to probably settle down here in the next, by 2030. That's our goal. Like I said, 10 years, 10,000 vets, and $10 billion, and then move over to Malaga, Spain.
Awesome, man. I've had enough of your time, man. I don't want to make this any longer. So just final thoughts. What would be some advice that you would give to transitioning veterans, particularly in the entrepreneurship realm, as they start learning that this is a door that they can walk through and they are more than capable of walking through?
Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind, and keep an open mind. In the reason I called the book "Flush the BS," your belief system, any belief system that you've established, religious, political, ideologies, school, anything, just anything that you think that you know, just strip it down. And this is step one of coaching too, but strip it down, go into it with an open mind, and when you enter into every conversation and you enter into every room and every situation as though it is your first time ever talking, your first time ever walking, your first time ever doing anything, when you treat life like that, one, you become a student of the game, you become very humble, which is very attractive, but two, you become very, 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 very acutely aware of just how much you don't know and how much other people know, and you are able to let things in without having blinders up. And so when you hear an opportunity to make passive income, oh, I've heard passive income is bad. I watched it on a TikTok one time. What does the person have to say? The concepts in and of itself does not constitute what a person has to say, if that makes sense, right? The way that I explained transitioning overseas as an expat, you've heard transition overseas as an expat, and that has like a stigma, that has like a weight behind it. But you lowered your guard, you listened to me, and I explained it in a way that resonated, and I explained it in a way that actually made sense, and therefore I changed your perspective, right? That's just an example of how having an open mind can do that. So whatever opportunity you go into it as a beginner, have a beginner's mindset, beginner's heart, be open to learn and open to new opportunities.
Just a follow up to that, what would you say to the people who say you're full of shit? You can't be making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month building a digital business online.
My philosophy is if someone's doing it, why can't you?
I can fucking do it.
Why not? If other people are able to do it, they know something that you don't. So try to figure out what that thing is and then go apply it. That simple. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I oversimplify it. I don't know.
No, man. Like, cause I did for a while before I really opened my eyes and understood what I was capable of. I was like, this sounds just asinine, right? Like nobody has ever turned you on to, and let's be honest with each other. $30,000 a month is not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. it's not a lot of money. I'm saying that over and over again because it took me a long time to get that through my head that $30,000 a month is not a lot of money. My personal goal for myself, where I thought I would be, just satisfied and like I had accomplished something, was 83,333. That's $1,000,000 a year. I feel like that is so achievable for everybody. It's not even funny. And it really, I mean, it does take tons of hard work, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't take that much. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot further you can go than that. And so that's really kind of what I'm trying to get across is like, I remember being introduced to the concept that you can make $100,000 a month from a business and really have like 70% margins on that if you want to, if you grind, and thinking there's no fucking way that's not real. And then I started to learn and I started to see the systems behind that make it work. My best example is I challenge everybody after they listen to this episode, go look at your emails, look in your inbox, count the number of newsletters that are selling you something. Pay attention to that shit because that's the ticket right there. That is how you make that kind of money a month.
Rip off and duplicate. That's the only R&D I know.
Well, and you may have read this book, but one of my favorite books in the world I read for a psychology class is called Runaway Species. And it's about the concept that there is no new idea under the sun. We all just take ideas that someone else throughout history has had, and we bend, blend, and break them to create a new thing out of the same idea. It's a fascinating book, man. It's one of my favorite books ever. It's not a dry read. I thought because it was a psychology book, it was going to be bad. I've read that thing like 4 or 5 times, and I learn something new every time I read it. And I really do like latch on to that because just look at everything that we've created as human beings. There's no new idea under the sun. We just refine and improve. Yeah, I've seen this. It's fascinating to me. You can go and like ask it what you're gonna write in the future, and it will like populate that. I think we really need to find what that website is because I want to play with it. I forgot the damn website, but yeah, man, it's incredible the shit that we've created, and man. Any final words you want to leave with the audience before we tell them how they can get in touch with you and buy your book and all of that? What anything you really want to hammer home for them?
It's funny you mentioned that because yesterday I was on a different podcast. It was a super high-end business coach that was interviewing me and asking me a bunch of questions. But at the end of it, he asked, "What inspires you?" There was like the very last question. That was like, I had to think for a second, but really what's inspiring me today, and hopefully this inspires some other people that are listening, what inspires me today is knowing the fact that what I went through, many other people have went through. That's inspiring as hell. Because your story, again, I know I'm poo-poo on somebody's party right now. Your story, no matter how freaking cool, no matter how unique or whatever, there's many other people that have been through it. Technically, I was a world champion in martial arts at one time. Can everyone say that they've been a world champion in martial arts? No. But can people say that they've been in martial arts? Yes. Can only 6 people say that they raided Bin Laden's compound? Yeah, okay, cool, right? But have other people been in special operations? Yes. Have other people been at that same kind of level and done the same stuff? Yes. So don't think that your story is special or unique, because all that's going to do is further isolate you away from people instead of recognizing that what you do and what you think and what you are is very common. And that creates an openness and kind of that inclusivity of other people to where you're no longer just kind of like comparing and contrasting to like, oh, well, I went through a divorce, you didn't went through a divorce, so you don't know what I'm going through. Oh, I have kids, you don't have kids, that's what you don't know what I'm going through. Like, look for ways that you're actually very common to other people. Most people are right-handed. Congratulations, you now are with the 70% of Americans, right? Just think outside the box like that and recognize that you are part of the majority. And when you do that, again, doors open up. Your guard goes away, and you just start looking for ways to connect to people. I think that's what is probably the most important thing in today's world.
Dude, I love that. It's kind of the way I like to explain it is everybody in life is dealt a shitty hand of cards. It's up to you how you play those cards. I think it's really that simple. You know, if you just look at life as like a hand of poker or something, and it's just the shittiest cards, the only thing you have control over is how you play those cards. Tell everybody how they can find you, where they can buy your book, best way to get in touch with you if they are interested in buying one of your franchises. If they're interested in the expat life, let us have all the links to where you're located at and the best way to get in touch with you.
So StephenCrane.com, as it stands right now, is just kind of like the one-stop hub. You can book an appointment with me, talk to me. Happy to connect with you. You can buy my book directly from there. At the bottom of the page, though, you will see all the sister or subsidiary companies that we're part of. You can click on each one of those, learn a little bit more about each one of those. But if you're looking to donate to the nonprofit and you're looking to help out other veterans, 100% of every penny, of every dollar, of every cent that you give to that nonprofit goes directly back to the veteran. Not a single penny goes into my pocket or to anyone else's pocket but the veteran. If you go to veteranroadmap.org, you'll see our nonprofit there, our 501c3. You can donate. You'll get a tax deductible little slip and everything that you can use to offset some taxes at the end of the year. Like I said, know your taxes. But really, that's it. I mean, just donating to the nonprofit, that's a huge ask. If you're interested in purchasing a franchise, reach out to me, Steven at StephenCrane.com. That's my email. But you can find all my contact information on StephenCrane.com.
Awesome, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Stephen Crane. Don't forget to go like, rate, review, subscribe, share this so we can get this in front of 1 million veterans before May 9th, 2025, when I turn 40. That's the goal. Dr. Crane, again, so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for your time on a Saturday. I really appreciate it, man. I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
Take care, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week.